Hey guys, Pete here. There isn't a new episode of Better Call Saul this week, but we can still talk about it. Now that we've had a week to process things, I wanted to come back and have another discussion. I know my feelings have been evolving, and I'm starting to think more about the end of everything at this point, the end of the series with only 6 more episodes to go. So I brought my friends in, and I'm going to let my guests introduce themselves, and we'll kind of give us an idea what they're thinking, where they're at after thinking about this mid-season finale for a week. I've been working on some new videos, and my thoughts have changed some. I'm thinking a lot more about how the last 6 episodes are going to connect the two series, how we're going to start to see it really become fused with Breaking Bad. Eric, I know this is your first time here, so you can just basically tell us whatever you like about your experience watching season 6 so far, and what you're doing over on your channel. Chase, why don't you go first? What are you thinking about during this mid-season break, and how things evolved for you since last week?
Well, first off, I'm curious as to how Jimmy and Kim could cover up Howard's death and any recent connections to him. They never anticipated on him dying, they just figured he'd eventually land on his feet. So, with Howard possibly going missing, will people such as Cliff look into connections with Jimmy? I'm just curious how or if Jimmy will cover their tracks. I mean, there's obviously everything in regards to the body, but I'm more thinking about any sort of connections that could recently lead people back to Jimmy and what he was doing. Because looking at the mediator con, could the camera crew get involved? I mean, after the last episode, it kind of seems like the camera crew got their final swan song, and we might not see them anymore. But I mean, they are heavily involved with the final moments of this. The camera guy saw Jimmy and Kim lacing the photos with drugs, and the boom mic guy was even in the swapped photo as the guy handing Jimmy a frisbee. So that's something to think about. Now, since Cliff announced that he will be settling the Sandpiper case, I'm also wondering how soon we'll see Jimmy and Kim get that money and how it could impact the final episodes of the show. Will Jimmy finally get his Cadillac with the money that he has in Breaking Bad? Or could that be a reward of sorts that Lalo gives him on behalf of the cartel for cooperating? Because that's kind of been the leading theory since season 5. And then also, will Kim finally get her pro bono office with other paralegals such as Viola to assist her? We saw Kim go down Bad Choice Road with Howard instead of trying to accomplish her dreams legitimately with that Santa Fe meeting and everything that Cliff was offering her. So could it still all turn out for her, or will she not be able to go through with it after Howard's death? What do you guys think about all that?
I'll let I'll let Eric go ahead and introduce himself, and then I'll chime in on the at the end on what's going on with that. So Eric,
Sure.
why don't you tell the viewers who you are and what you do over on your channel?
Sure. Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And for the past couple of years now, I've been running Inside the Gilliverse, where we talk to the actors and cast and crew each week, and it's been a really fun project. It started off as a hobby over on a music side of the channel, where we talk to music celebrities that we've enjoyed growing up listening to and things like that, and we kind of brought in some Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul characters, and then it evolved into its own thing. And so that's what I do every Friday night. And as I was telling you off the air, I love to listen to Chase's theories. I don't I don't go too far down rabbit holes of theories because you can get lost quickly, but he has some great stuff. And something I've learned as of late, in the past, especially having Tom on again the other night, sometimes a lot of people think all these little dots that connect things actually don't. Like, is this a coincidence that this said this and this said this? And a lot of times it's just that wasn't even planned. And Tom kind of kiboshed a lot of, I don't want to say theories, but just coincidences, and it's neat to hear that from Tom himself. So a lot of these things aren't really what we think. So just follow the narrative. I see a lot of people talking about how they think season 6 is slow. I don't think it's slow at all. I think sometimes people want to see people killed in every episode, and then who we got left. I love the pacing of the show. I was going to ask Tom this the other night, and I didn't, but I'll ask you guys this. You can both answer. Have you ever found yourselves pausing the episode to see, like, because I have AMC Plus, and so sometimes I'll pause, and I hate doing that to see how much time's left in the episode, and then it kind of spoils. It's like, oh man, there's only like 9 minutes left. Something's gonna, like, what's gonna happen in these 9 minutes? And I try not to do that, but that's a real thing I'm trying to get myself out of doing. But I love watching the show. I don't profess to be a know-it-all. I'm far from it. Our viewers educate me every night. Our guests educate me every night. So I just love being in this community with all of you.
Yeah, and I just want to you keep mentioning Tom. I don't know if you made it clear that you were talking about Tom Schnauz, who is writer, executive producer, director on the show, right?
Correct. Yeah, he's also my co-host. He co-hosted 10 episodes in season 1, and then he had to take a hiatus because he was writing season 6, and that's when COVID had all hit and everything, and it was back in the virtual writers room. But he vowed that when he was free, he'd come back and do the co-hosting spot again, which will be probably this season again as well too.
Yeah, and I was telling you off screen before we got started that I've always been kind of fascinated with his career because he's been involved with so much of all this stuff that we watch, and he's really he would wrote and direct the last episode that we're talking about right now, and it's really cool that you get to sit down next to him and talk about the things that are going on with no knowledge compared to the fact that he knows where everything's going. And what you were talking about there, Chase, going back, so you're thinking a lot more about the future of the plot threads that were all kind of going on before Lalo showed up. You're talking about Sandpiper money and the pro bono office and stuff like that. That's interesting because over the last few days, most of my thinking has just been, it feels like Lalo has come in and he's sort of he became this like he's like a planet. He has everything. He sucked it into his orbit. He has this gravity about him, and it's kind of hard to see how that other stuff is going to fall into place because, like you mentioned, Howard's dead body's in their living room right now. Like, they have to definitely that has to be taken care of, and I think there's a very, very real possibility that Lalo, once he kills Howard in front of them, he really has no reason to let them go. It's not like he can just say, hey, go ahead and go to work and then hit me up at 5 o'clock and we'll talk about how we'll go get Gus. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the both of those, everything is kind of sucked into his orbit at this point, and that's really what I've been thinking about. And I mean, not that all of what you're saying isn't good points. It's just it's interesting that we're thinking about two different trajectories, and we really don't know which direction it can go or how it's going to get there. So it's pretty exciting. And I guess we have a couple of super chats here that I'll hit up first, and then we'll talk about that a little bit. We'll talk about Lalo first, and then we'll get into Howard and some of the things that we need to address
Yep, sounds good.
post episode 7. So here we go. I have this is a super chat from Almeida's Army. Thank you for the 449 pounds. It says, could you discuss my theory I tweeted to you on how Walt and Jesse will appear in the opening of the 608 and the flash forward to Jane's death? And I did see this tweet on my timeline. It was it's basically the 608 would open with this flash forward, and you would see Jesse there, and he basically makes the call. Walt ends up calling Saul, and we know he sends Mike over there to clean things up. So that's the theory. I'll let you guys go ahead and chime in first. Chase, what do you think about this as a way to bring Walt and Jesse into the story?
I mean, there's a lot of different flash forward sort of theories that we could go with. I actually haven't really thought about this one too much, but it does make sense considering that the first time we ever saw Mike in Breaking Bad, it was him cleaning up Jane's death. So I think that that could connect to the current events in Better Call Saul, and hypothetically, if somehow Jimmy and Kim, get away from Lalo and Lalo leaves them with the body. I do think that, they'll call Mike up and get him to come clean up the body, but also in such a way that, maybe Lalo doesn't leave and maybe their connection with Mike is sort of the thing that Lalo wants. So for all we know, Lalo could get Jimmy and Kim to invite Mike over while he's still there and have Mike clean up the body in front of them. I'm not sure if he's going to clean up the body all by himself like he did with kind of cleaning up the crime scene with Jane's death, or if he's going to get his men over. Lalo probably doesn't want to get outnumbered, so it might just be Mike. I'm just wondering how we'll see a different perspective of this Jane death scene, because they don't want to just show the same thing again. They want to show, I mean, they might, but from a different perspective, maybe seeing more beforehand or more afterwards. But the whole the whole thing about Mike cleaning up Jane is that we see when Mike arrives and we see when he leaves. So I'm not exactly sure how they could incorporate more into this scene.
All right, Eric, you have anything you want to add to that?
No, I think he nailed it, and I think that'd be a very good way to tie them in, having Mike arrive somehow in a different perspective, different viewpoint at the apartment or at Jane's place, and then seeing that clean up at Kim's place. I don't know how that's going to happen, whether there's going to be more people like Chase said, but I think that'd be a perfect way to introduce them. But other than that, I have no clue on how we're going to see them. And I don't think it's just going to be fan service. I think it's going to be something that's going to be, I mean, as we know, they tell stories for a reason. I don't have a clue at this point. And sometimes I'm happy with that. Sometimes I'm disappointed that I don't have these theories, but I just let the story dictate. And I'm really anxious to see how they're going to appear.
Yeah, I think when I read this, at first, I guess my initial reaction was I didn't understand how it would. It wasn't immediately apparent to me how that would serve the story that they're telling right now. Like I see the parallel, and that does make sense, but I have a feeling. I mean, it doesn't really change what we know about Mike or Saul. I kind of feel like whatever we get as far as a flash forward, and maybe we get that the Rashomon effect where we see something from a different perspective, and that person completely sort of experiences it or explains it or understands it differently than the person that we saw during the original timeline. I think I don't see that. I think this is more of the things. These two situations mirror each other a little bit, but I don't really see how they expand on the characters, like who they are, or we'll just have to wait and see. I think that that would be my take on this. I to say that I don't know how they'll show up. We'll get into that a little bit later, but they do have quite a few. I mean, they have a lot of material to work with there, so it'll be interesting to see. Mike Johnson, the runner. Thank you for the $4.99. Hey, Pete and the gang, do you think Howard Hamlin's name and legacy will get a road to redemption twist it deserves? I don't hold out much hope for that personally. I felt like that was part of the tragedy, was that the way that they crafted this narrative of him being an addict for their purposes. Like, I feel like that's going to kind of tarnish his legacy, and that's part of the tragedy of what their unintended consequences were. Like, I think that he deserves better, but I don't know that we could expect him to get better. And I think that one of the things that comes to mind is that scene where we see that Chuck, the new intern or the new hire didn't really know who Chuck was, just to see his image. And I thought that was a pretty big, thing. Like, hey, look, Chuck's legacy isn't what it should have been because of this thing that happened to him. So what do you think about this, Chase? Do you think there's a redemption for his reputation or his legacy?
I mean, unless Cliff goes on some sort of vendetta to prove that Howard wasn't crazy, I'm not too sure. And that's sort of part of the bittersweet tragedy of this whole show is that everything doesn't get a happy ending. And in fact, very rarely does anyone. I mean, I guess Jesse kind of gets a happy ending, but he has to relocate. And then Gene being kind of isolated and depressed in that sense. So I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I think a lot of people will remember Howard for who he was and not how he was in his final few moments. I don't think that it'll permanently taint his reputation overall, but it definitely left an impact as far as people's perspectives on him. And it does really suck that he's not able to sort of justify it or come back from it or land on his feet, so to speak. So his reputation and legacy is tainted, but at the same time, I don't think it's completely ruined.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying, Eric.
I don't think he's going to get a redemption, and I honestly think if we even see it, which we probably won't, I think you'll see probably like a for sale sign or for rent in front of HHM. I think it's done. I think it's done. I mean, it was done with Chuck. When Chuck left, that was just, when Howard basically paid him out of his own pocket, just, to basically have him away. That was the start of the demise right there. And with this now, there's nothing left. And I don't think he's going to get his redemption. It's sad to see because I know a lot of us, we didn't necessarily love Howard. We love the actor. We love the actor that played him. But, it's just that little thorn in all of our sides. And then we see him gone. And it's like, it's one of the most painful things to try to cope with. But I don't think he's going to get a redemption. And I think you're going to see that place fold. There's going to be a lot of lawyers looking for work.
Yeah, I agree that he was the last of the letters, the HHM letters standing, and when you knock that down, there's really nothing there. Nobody was really there to step in and kind of manage that. He did that in some levels for Chuck. He was there to kind of kind of keep his legacy around to a certain extent, even though he was the one that forced them out. There's really no one to do that for Howard. Even his wife is indifferent, they definitely look like they've drifted apart. So there's really no one in Howard's corner at this point, which like you both said, it really adds to the tragedy. MG, thank you for the $5. Thinking about Clue, keep eye on Stopper. That's referring to Peter Gould saying to keep an eye on the Zafiro Anejo Stopper from the bottle. With warning, it's sharp in season 606. Could it be weapon Kim uses to kill Lalo, forcing her to disappear? It could be. That would definitely be a way to get rid of Lalo. I had a lot of comments about that. It's sharp warning, and it definitely felt intentional to quite a few people that they said that for a reason. I don't know. I mean, I guess I was thinking about the fact that they're playing with fire a little bit with this plan, and he doesn't get to buy the bottle at the end because of the fact that something went wrong, and that then you have dominoes fall, and that ends with Howard bleeding out on the carpet. What do you think, Eric? Do you think that this is that maybe Kim might use the Stopper to take out Lalo?
I don't know. I don't want to say this. I don't want to get flamed for saying this, but I don't think we're going to see Lalo die. I just don't. And I know people are going to say he has to die, but I mean, he could be gone, and whether he's dead or alive, we don't know. I think he's going to be gone, but I don't think he's going to die. And maybe, I always look to Chase for the expert at this with theories, but maybe what we saw with the Stopper rolling out of the back of the truck when the feds and whoever was the movers were confiscating all the stuff from Saul's house. We saw the Stopper roll out. I mean, I wonder if that's it. Maybe that's the last we see of that thing. I don't know. But they are known for throwing us some misdirection sometimes. Maybe that's the last of the stopper that we're supposed to watch for. I don't know.
Yeah, okay. And we will come back around to that idea about that. That's one of the things I wanted to talk about, whether he could survive or not. So we'll put a pin in that one until later. Go ahead, Chase.
Yeah, I mean that would be a crazy misdirect. I don't think him as a murderer, but that could be one of the big surprises. It could be a reason as to why she disappears or why she's not in Breaking Bad. I always thought that the 601 bottle stopper was just kind of to signify Kim's U-turn into Bad Choice Road, and I don't even think it so much implies that Kim is still living with Jimmy or Saul, just that he keeps that around just as a reminder of his time with her. But I mean, if that sort of, it's sharp, watch out for it. If that sort of implication does come back around, I think that would be crazy. That would be a crazy misdirect to see Kim kill Lalo. I haven't really thought about that. My main theory is that Mike is going to end up killing Lalo somehow. But I guess we'll talk more about that in a little bit.
I mean, one thing that they have definitely made clear, abundantly clear throughout the series, is what a physical force Lalo is. I mean, just in his last interaction with Casper, he was hit in the back with by a full-grown man with the back of an axe, and he still managed to get the upper hand. So it would be it would be no small feat for her to be able to take him out with that. But I don't imagine that I definitely think they could pull that off if that's where they wanted to go with it. They could write that in a way that you would be like, holy hell, what just happened? Big Mac 076, thank you for the $4.99. I'm wondering what you guys thoughts and predictions are on the 405 cold open. That's the Quite a Ride flash forward. Who's calling at 3 p.m. on Jimmy's birthday, and who is Francesca's attorney? Well, I've always thought it was Kim who was calling at 3 p.m. There are, other things that you could make, but it seems like the closer we get to this actually happening, the there aren't more options. They just seem to be getting narrow. As far as like Francesca, there was always the idea that maybe she was going to call HHM. That's not going to happen anymore. So I don't even know who it could be. It could be Aaron Brill. It could be Cliff Main. I imagine it's someone that we have already met in the story, but that's a little bit more of a mystery now. I definitely do think it's Kim who's calling on his birthday. What do you think, Chase?
Well, the thing is, if it is Kim, I don't really think that Jimmy needs to say to Francesca, tell him Jimmy sent you, because I mean, Kim knows Jimmy well enough, even as Saul Goodman, that I don't really think that she needs that sort of introduction. Yeah, my main guess was Howard. Obviously, that's not the case anymore. I don't think it's going to be some random character like Aaron or Bill Oakley, but on the other hand, I do think it could be Rich or Cliff, but they always seem to be on the straight and narrow. I don't really know if they're going to defend Francesca or something like that. I believe Suzanne Erickson becomes the head of the Heisenberg case by the time El Camino rolls around, so it can't be her. So yeah, I'm really left scratching my head in regards to that, honestly.
Yeah, my interpretation of that's different. The way that I look at that scene is that there's two different things that he's talking about. He's talking about a call that's going to be at 3 p.m. He doesn't give her any additional information about, but then he also hands her a card, which you think is for an attorney, and that's who he's talking about whenever he says, "Tell him Jimmy sent you." I don't think he's saying for her to tell the person on the phone, but I guess it could be interpreted different ways. Eric, what do you think? Do you want to chime in? Do you think
Sure.
who he's calling there?
I'm possibly Kim, but one thing I thought was quite exciting when I interviewed Tina Parker, who plays Francesca, some time ago, and she talked about that scene because fans ask that question all the time: "Who is it?" Or blah blah blah. And the card that she was given was a blank card. There's nothing written on that card, obviously, so they didn't necessarily have the answer to that yet. You know how they do that? They paint themselves in the corners, and they get in that corner. And, okay, now who are we going to make be on the other end of this call? Chase, you both made good points. I mean, it's not just going to be some random person on the end of that line. It's going to have some significance because, Saul was in sheer panic, literal panic, make sure this call is not missed. So whether it's, and I mean, then again, too, there was no such thing as Kim yet, right? So I don't know. I'm leaning towards Kim, wherever Kim may be, and I don't think she's going to be in a good place either. I think she's going to be alive, but she's going to not be in a good place, and it's going to be a time-sensitive phone call for her as well too. I don't know. I'd love to hear the fan theories for sure.
Yeah, and that's a great point that you're making there. That they probably didn't know either way who either of those people were when they wrote it. I was listening to, whenever we talked about you coming on, I went back and listened to the first interview you did with Vince, and I remember that him and Tom talking about that they, that they don't do it on purpose, but they end up writing themselves into the corner, which we know that from watching Breaking Bad. I mean, we saw that play out several times. And, and I just thought about that way that they were talking about certain events that happened and how they didn't know, like it's where it seems like it was completely plotted the whole way out. And you realize, they didn't know what they were doing there. They just thought it would make a good scene if Saul gave her, instructions and handed her this card, and, they'll be able to use that later whenever they get to a place where they need to. So yeah, that's a great thing to keep in mind. But I think we're pretty much in consensus that it'll end up being Kim. It'll be a real surprise if it's someone else. So it'll be good to see. Justin Trumbull, thank you for the $4.99. Do you think we'll get a Howard funeral scene and explanation for the marriage falling apart? You three are awesome. Well, thank you for that. I don't think so. I don't think we'll get a Howard funeral scene. I could be wrong. I mean, we'll be getting into this later, but I feel like that sort of what I was saying earlier about Lalo pulling everyone into his orbit here. I kind of feel like a lot of the BCS stuff is we're not that there's not a lot of stuff that we have to touch on, and that they will, but I feel like a lot of it is we're kind of being pulled into the Breaking Bad story now. And, of course, Kim is so entwined with Jimmy that she's on the ride there. But, I'll be, like I said, we'll talk about this a little bit more because, we have 6 episodes to go. We have to definitively figure out what's going on with the situation that they're in right now and how Gus versus Lalo goes. And then, we have to visit Gene. So, we have a lot of stuff to do and not a lot of episodes. So I tend to think that we're going to get less of filling in the blanks about things from the BCS timeline and more about blending the two series together. Do either of you guys have something you want to add to that?
Well, I think for sure with not seeing any more of Howard, I think if we see any more of Howard, we may see possibly just a corpse in the eyes of Mike or whoever there is going to clean it up. And the reason why I say that, someone had asked Tom the other night when he was on with me with Lewis and Danny, they asked about him Howard falling and hitting his head. So Tom wrote that in as well too, to just make the worst even more bad, horrific. So he's shot in the head, he falls and hits his head. I think if we had a funeral, that's going to give a little bit of closure, and it's, okay, we're done with that. So that horrific scene, being shot and falling, and then to accent that pain by seeing a dead body, maybe that might be the last we'll see of Howard. I don't think they're going to do a funeral and make it kind of, okay, we can get past this now. So I don't think we'll see that.
I mean, if we do see a funeral, it all depends on whether or not Howard's body is found. I mean, do they stage it as a suicide? Do they stage it as an accident? Do they just completely disappear his body and leave him missing? Do they frame him for taking a trip to Belize and never coming back? I think it really depends on what happens to the body, but Also, I don't really think that they want to kind of do the same thing that they did with Chuck. Like, we had a funeral scene with Chuck. So regardless of if we see a funeral scene for Howard or not, I mean, I guess obviously they could still do a funeral scene even if they don't see the body, but I would like to see how Cheryl, his wife, reacts to it. If she truly does show remorse and is, crying and super sad, or if she's overall just jaded to the fact that Howard's gone. I think that would be an interesting scene to see, especially if she's talking to Cliff about it, or even for some reason Jimmy or Kim. Not sure why they would ever meet up, but it could kind of call back to the whole Rebecca going to see Jimmy and Kim, Chuck's ex-wife, back in season 3, I believe. So yeah, I'm not too sure. Just depends what happens to the body. But I would like to see some sort of Howard and Chuck flashback before the show's over. I think that'd be great.
Good.
Yes, I think something like that would be more fitting than just spending a lot of time in the current timeline. Sorry, Eric, go ahead.
No. I'm just agreeing. Totally agreeing.
Yeah. Tenor R, thank you for the $4.99. This is kind of a general question. So he says, do you guys have any criticisms for BCS now that we're approaching the end? I think, like I said, it's general, and I don't want to go down a completely different road than where we're the direction we're heading right now. But I would just say, like, for me, I don't think that my criticisms for BCS have changed that much over the years. I think in the beginning, I thought it at times it could be a little bit indulgent in certain things. I think that there's stuff that they do where they're really focused in on the process of a character doing something, and whatever they're doing will it'll explain to us where they're at, what they're thinking about, what they're going to do, and they're not talking to anyone, so we have to actually watch them do this thing, and it works really well to develop the characters. But at times you're just sort of like, okay, did we have to watch 10 minutes of Mike doing that thing? You know what I mean? And like those are just sort of experiences, or those are things that I experience when I'm watching. But I think almost always that it's worth it in the end. Like I don't think that there's anything that I absolutely just don't enjoy about the show. I mean, I enjoy the characters, and you kind of need all of that stuff to make them as enjoyable as they are. So do you guys want to add anything here?
Well, as far as being a little bit too self-indulgent, I definitely agree with that. The show has masterful cinematography and all that, mainly just because the people working on the show have all the experience of Breaking Bad, on their belt. But I would really have to kind of stretch and search for any true criticisms for this show. Like, in regards to, I think it was the beginning of season 3, watching Mike tear his car apart to find the tracker and the gas cap. I know there were some complaints about that, but I genuinely enjoyed that whole thing. Relating back to the most current season, seeing the slide rule get encased in the acrylic, maybe that was a little bit too much self-indulgence. I like the whole mystery aspect of it, but they have done that quite a few times this season, where they show, oh, what's with the security cameras at the beginning, and then we find that out, or what's with the blue flower, and then we find that out by the end of the episode. So I feel like they may have done that one too many times this season. I don't really think that the pacing of the show was too slow. I've heard a handful of complaints about episodes 604 to 606 being too slow. Really, I feel like maybe one of the episodes was a little bit too slow, but I enjoyed the rest of it. I guess one of the only things that kind of made me feel a little bit off put, and I was talking to Pete about this behind the scenes a little bit, is that we just didn't really get much of the aftermath of Nacho's death. I would have liked to see, think I've said this sorry, I think I've said this before, even on Peach Stream, but I would have liked to see Mike sort of go back and bury Nacho's body where the blue flower grows, or see a little bit more about Mike's father. But aside from the one time that Pete pointed out to me that Mike mentions Nacho's father's place to Tyrus, and I think 605 or 606, we haven't really heard anything about Nacho or the aftermath, and I would have liked to see more about how that affects Mike and kind of his de-evolution into no half measures. That's about it.
You have anything you want to add, Eric?
Sure. I agree with Chase on two things here. Number one, too, with Nacho. I mean, people could say, Howard was just as much of a powerful character being in from the very first season as well, too, like Nacho was. But Nacho, his character was that good guy that wants to get out, and I think he deserved a bit more story to be told maybe after his death. So I would like to see that. We might still, we might see a little bit more. It'd be very nice. And I also like that Chase brought up the fact about Mike and the gas cap. And one thing I think was good and bad at the same time about that. The bad was how long it took to go through that. It could be a long and painful scene. But I think what the writers were trying to show there was just like Gus Fring hides in plain sight, your enemy's hiding in plain sight. That tracker was in plain sight. Mike pretty much destroyed that car. And, like, it's almost like doing tech support for someone. You do tech support for someone and you're like, I'm not getting any sound from my speakers. Oh, did you check your drivers? You check this. And meanwhile, it's not plugged into the darn wall. So it's the simplest of things sometimes. And it took a long time in that gas cap scene to figure out what it was. But the moral of that story was, and I think it paid off, was that things are in plain sight sometimes. So, and I think we've seen that a lot in the Breaking Bad, in the Gilliverse world, in Better Call Saul, both everything. There are things are hiding in plain sight, and I love that.
Yeah, like I said, I think that almost all, like, sometimes you should be a little bit uncomfortable when you're watching, I think, too. Like, I think about the early parts of season 4 where they had Jimmy making some decisions that were just really hard to understand, and that can be frustrating, and I guess in the beginning of season 6 it's the same way. Like they obscured a lot of the plan for us in a way that they don't usually do, you know what I mean? There was a lot of us guessing what was going to happen, and it made me a little bit uncomfortable. But whenever you see the whole picture at the end, I don't think any of it is too out of place. And
No, even Jimmy working in the cell phone shop, like, I mean, some of that was long and drawn out, it was boring sometimes. Like, I
bouncing
mean,
the ball on the
yeah, I mean, not boring for us as viewers, boring for Jimmy, like, okay,
Yeah.
nothing was going on. But we look back at that now, and what might have seemed like 10, 15 minutes of that in a particular episode, it's gone like this because now we see what it's done, and it's become an integral part of him now.
Yeah, and that's what kind of hits you later in that season, is you're like, Jimmy doesn't know what Jimmy's doing weird stuff that doesn't make sense because he doesn't know what's going on. Like, it's because he is in this traumatic, he's got PTSD from his brother dying. So of course he's doing weird things that don't make sense because he doesn't know what's going on with him. You know what I mean? It just takes a little bit. You have to get through all of that to understand it whenever, the payoff comes, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
The Judo Joker, thank you for $10. Thoughts on Kim going even darker in 6B and her potentially sending the cab driver after Gene? Also, want to shout out a growing BCS YouTuber, Courtney Reviews. She'd make a great future guest here. I've seen a couple of people mention this person, Courtney Reviews. I was telling Eric right before we came on, I don't watch a lot of videos about stuff that I cover because I don't want other people's thoughts and views seeping into whatever I'm working on. So, I've never seen a Courtney Reviews video, and I don't know who they are. So maybe maybe that's something to think about in the future. But as of right now, it's not. I don't really know what to say about that. But thoughts on Kim going even darker in 6B? I think for me, Kim is in survival mode, and that could definitely involve getting darker. They're in a place where they have to react to what's happening to Lalo now. You know what I mean? They're not really pulling the strings. They're not there. She was driving things in the first part of 6, and she's not in the driver's seat anymore. Now Lalo Salamanca is. So I feel like most of what she's going to do is going to be directly related to her survival and getting out of the situation that they found themselves in because of this ill-advised thing that they did against Howard. Her potentially sending the cab driver after Gene, that's not a theory I've ever connected with or thought made any kind of sense. I know a lot of people are looking for something like that there. To me, Gene or the cab driver, Jeff, he always seemed like a random Albuquerque person, possibly in the same way that we're talking about before, that the writers didn't know exactly why that was going to, what was going to come of him being there, but they wanted to, make that connection with somebody who knew who Gene was. And I guess they could go back after the fact and say that someone sent him that the air freshener being in the courtroom kind of makes you think that those two things might be connected, but I'm not there yet. What about you, Chase?
Well, first in regards to Kim going darker in 6B, I think there's one of two options here. Either one, she could, sort of take a back seat and let Jimmy handle things since he's more used to the whole cartel side of things. Even though Kim is built of sterner stuff, I feel like she has gone a little in over her head in regards to Lalo with going and seeing him when Lalo was in jail and then standing up to Lalo in 509, even though we know it did work and Lalo did back down. This time he's not really going to. So I'm not too sure if she's going to take a backseat and kind of let Jimmy evolve into Saul and let him take care of things, or if she's just going to completely double down and maybe it could end up with her losing her life because of still being too in over her head. And in regards to the cab driver, I mean, it seems like we're always trying to find connections to the cab driver. Like, who sent the cab driver after Gene? Was it Kim? Is Lalo still alive? Did he send the cab driver after Gene? I mean, these are all theories that are possibilities. I'm not going to say I'm against them in any way, shape, or form, but I do just kind of believe that Jeff is on his own. But that being said, I am curious what the deal with the isotope air freshener is, seeing that in season 6 when Cliff was watching Kim in the courtroom. I don't know if that has any sort of connection or if it's just sort of an Easter egg for vivid viewers, I guess. But yeah, I feel like Jeff the cab driver is just kind of on his own, almost like a wannabe criminal that maybe sees Gene as sort of possibly his connection into the underworld or might want to extort him for some reason. But I don't really think that anyone is controlling Jeff or anything like that. But I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. Eric?
Well, I think with the air freshener and things like that as well, too, just from the other night, too, talking with Tom, like Tom kind of debunked so many things. Like sometimes fans really want to take these two pieces and put them together because they seem so similar. And I'm not just talking about the air freshener, I'm talking about anything like a number on a domino means this person's going to die in this episode or something like that. And like they proved that it's not the way it is. And Tom will even say, that's cool. That's an awesome theory. I wish I would have thought of that. Sometimes the writers even wish they've thought of those things, but it's just not the case. And it's more often than not. So now I'm starting to, even if I think of these ideas, I'm thinking, no, that they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't do that. So I'm not falling into that. I don't think that has anything to do with it. I don't know where he's coming from, Jeff. But as far as Kim going darker, I think we might possibly be at her darkest right now, because we've got this body we got to deal with. She might go on the hook for it. Maybe her and Jimmy both do. I don't know. She may disappear, witness relocation, disappearing, whatever. But something that's really struck me weird about her for quite some time is she seemed overly anxious to help Jimmy get the Sandpiper settlement. She, and even Jimmy was kind of like a couple times, right? And she really wants that money. Is she going to take the money and run? I don't know, but she was a little overly anxious to get that settlement, whether it be for Jimmy or for ulterior motives.
I just wanted to add quickly to the whole Tom debunking stuff. I did know, and I think it was a tweet that he even said about the dominoes, about Nacho with the 603. And there's a lot of connections in this show that maybe the creators didn't initially intend, but viewers find. And I've heard in interviews with Peter and Vince saying that they enjoy us interpreting it in different ways. So even if it's not something they originally intended, it's still nice to see these connections, such as in one of the recent Insider podcasts, Lalo, being in the sewers, kind of reminding us of Pennywise from It. Apparently that wasn't intentional, but they got a good laugh out of it. So I think it's fair to say that they approve of some things, even if they're not completely intentional.
Well, in the grand scheme of things, it's like going to Starbucks, and I go to Starbucks and I get a coffee, and they put Derek on the cup. I'm like, hey, my name's Eric, so I take a picture of it and I tweet it, and I'm talking, look what Starbucks did. We're talking about our coffee now. In this case, we're talking about fan theories. It's top of mind. It's keeping the show relevant, So I mean, of course, they're loving it.
Mm. Yeah, and I think we're going to touch on a little bit more of that stuff as we go on. So I don't want to stick here too long, but the idea of her, I mean, the opposite idea is also something that we need to consider, that she has a choice where she can go darker or she can get out, which is sort of what, you both touched on a little bit there. And I think what's fun is that both things are almost equally possible. One doesn't really like win the day instantly. So it's a complicated character, and you can't really nail anything down because there's so many different ways they can go. Mike Garavani, thank you for the 555 Swiss francs. How can Saul and Kim get away with Howard's murder? I mean, that's a good question. He says the police will inevitably figure out his car was in their apartment lot as he disappears. Well, yeah, and I think the important thing to consider here is that nobody is prepared for this. I mean, Lalo, he came in to talk to them. He found out that he was there. One of those things that Tom kind of shot down that you were just talking about, Eric, was that he didn't hear something that they were talking about and then decide to kill Howard. This was just the purest thing of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. He came in to do something, and Howard was there, and he had to go. And I don't think in that scenario, and I talked about this in my last video, I don't think in that scenario he really cares what happens to Howard, because he wants to find something out from Jimmy and Kim, and really they die after that's over. You know what I mean? Like that should be the end of them as well. So he can just leave 3 dead bodies in that apartment and leave and never return, as just remain a ghost. That where it gets, interesting, and kind of what one of the things I want to talk about today was that, we know Jimmy survives, I mean, he becomes Saul Goodman. So he's going to have to do something, that as a team, they're going to have to do something that they're, to make themselves valuable to him. And that's kind of the whole idea of how they're going to get away with it is sort of secondary to that. I mean, we know for sure that Jimmy does. We know that for sure that he is, doesn't lose his license. He's still practicing law, 4 years later. So, I guess for me, I'm not sure the specifics on how they do it. I just sort of trust the writers know how to make that make sense. And I'm not really concerned that they won't be able to do that. What do you think about that, Eric? Like, do you think that this is a big sticking point, the fact that there's a dead body here that they're going to get caught for?
I don't. I think because we've seen it a million times now how they can fix that, but I think it can be a breaking point for Kim. I'm going to go with the theory that I don't think we're going to see Kim go darker. I think that was a wake up call for her. Like, wow, we've actually now at their fingertips have had someone die. That will happen many times in Saul's lifetime, but this is probably the first time that Kim has experienced it, and maybe the last. So I don't think we're going to go darker. I don't think it's going to be much of a problem for them to take care of the body. And I'm surprised in the way that we've had death as fast and extreme as we've had in this season with Nacho and Howard. I don't think we're going to see a lot more death. I might personally going to go on the record to say I think that we'll see Kim go somewhere, hiding whatever, and I don't think we're going to find out what happens to Lalo. I mean, I know a lot of fans want to see some big action and some definitive answers, but sometimes not knowing is the best story. So yeah, that's my answer to that.
I just kind of wanted to touch on the whole plot armor of it all real quick, because just the fact that Jimmy does have this plot armor makes me really focus on Kim and what her fate will be if Lalo's going to kill her. But at the same time, I'm still worried for Jimmy because just relating back to season 5 with Bagman, we knew that Jimmy and Mike had to survive those events, but in my opinion, it didn't make that episode any less intense. So even with Breaking Bad characters having this plot armor, the creators still do a really good job at making me scared for them and wonder what's going to happen to them. So I'm really curious on how they're going to get out of this situation first off, and then how they're going to possibly take care of Howard's body.
Yeah. I think, like I said, I haven't put a lot of thought into it because I know that they'll give us something that makes sense. But I am interested to see how it plays out. Suze Bart, B-Art, maybe $4.99. Thank you again. Kim's dad in prison, Kim's mom in prison, Kim in prison. The Wexler family prison. Yeah, I mean that was definitely one of the most popular theories before. When murder entered the equation, it felt less likely. I had meant to make a video about this a couple weeks ago, but I didn't get around to it. It seems like it's weird because I feel like in the events that have happened in the last couple of episodes, I feel more certain that Kim will survive, like that there's really no threat to her life. But at the same time, it almost feels like that she's going to have to run away after Howard. You know what I mean? Whereas before you thought maybe she might turn herself in or something might happen, and it's just murder now. So like going to prison is like a forever kind of thing, not a few years to do your time and then get out and meet up with Jimmy on the outside again. What do you guys think about the Wexler family as a bunch of jailbirds?
Well, I think that Kim and her dad are just sort of estranged. I think there's a reason why we've never really seen anything. Maybe they, hung out at when Kim was of a young age, but that she didn't really see much of him in his teen years. I'm not too sure if her dad and her mom are even together. I think it would make more sense if they weren't, considering that it's kind of implied that maybe Kim's mom was looking after Kim on her own. My leading theory for Kim's mom is that she eventually got in a drunk driving car accident and died, but it is possible that she could have been sent to prison for conning or stealing. She finally got caught for that, and that could have been what sent Kim on the straight and narrow, made her move to Albuquerque, become a lawyer. And then as far as Kim being in jail, I do think I have thought that Kim being disbarred is and losing her job and maybe going to jail is a more tragic fate for her than just dying, because if she dies, like, yeah, that would be really shocking if Lalo killed her at the beginning of the next episode, but it would kind of be an injustice to her character in regards to, I think the more tragic option is if she gets disbarred, she loses her job and her dream of working with pro bono clients, and then she goes to jail so that she can't even spend the money that she got from Sandpiper. Tom Schnauz mentioned in a Hollywood Reporter kind of article interview that one of the main ideas for 607 was Kim getting disbarred, but it didn't feel right. So I don't know if that means that they're not going to go with that at all, or if that just means they're not going to go with that yet. But yeah, those are my thoughts.
You got anything you want to add to that, Eric?
Very good observations, and I do think that maybe the death of the mom could be something as well too. I mean, we saw that she liked to partake in the drink, even when she'd have her child in the car. So I mean, she could be gone. I do think that we may still see Kim disbarred in jail. Because that she puts up, she may be weak behind the scenes, and she puts on this strong front that she has everything together, and the law is the only thing that maybe keeps that glue and her sanity together. And without that, agreed, that could be more punishment than being killed. It's a lifetime of punishment, and I feel strongly that we may see something like that. She may be on the run, or maybe running from the law for several episodes, and then caught towards the end and spends the rest of her life in jail.
Yeah, one of the things that I thought about whenever they did the second flashback to her, or the flashback to her childhood, was the idea about her running. I mean, she ran away from where she came from because she didn't like it there, and we got a glimpse into part of the reason. That is how that's related to her mother. And it just seems like there's always that idea that she might go back to Omaha, like that it's important that he's there because of that. And every time I hear that, I just think there's really nothing that would take her there. You know what I mean? Like, what it could be her mother, I guess, but um, it seems more like a coincidence that he's in the same place she came from, as in that she might just end up back there because she thinks it's a nice place. To me, it seems more like she would just run somewhere different. Usually if you're running away from somewhere and you get to the next place and it's not what you hoped it would be, or if you end up being caught up in a homicide, and you have to run away to somewhere else, you don't necessarily go backwards, you go to the next place. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's sort of what I had been thinking about as far as her. What we're thinking about her as someone who runs away, then she'll probably run somewhere different, not back home. You know what I mean?
If I can argue one point though, just struck me like maybe on the flip side of that, look at the Kettlemans. They stayed close to home. They were supposedly kidnapped or they ran away, and they stayed close to home where it was safe. Maybe that might, and I don't think this, but I'm just trying to hypothesize here a little bit. Maybe Kim being back home might be safe for her. Just a thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that Kim will go like exactly back to Red Cloud, which is the small town that she's from, but it is possible that she could be somewhere near there. And the whole thing about Gene being sent there is that he didn't come up with the location. It was Ed. It was purely coincidental. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure if there's any connection there. And again about Jeff, I don't think that Kim, got Jeff to go and hunt down Gene, but I think that Gene might try to get in contact with Kim in order to help with Jeff if, she's still alive, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely that. Reconnex 146, thank you for the $10. Did you hear the theory about the diamonds in the Gene timeline? They could be the $7 million bail money Jimmy was entitled to after it was made public that Lalo was dead. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't really know how that would work. I don't think that Jimmy's going to get $7 million in bail if Lalo doesn't show up. That could be possible, but that doesn't really make sense to me. It's not his money. He didn't post it. I think they would look for a next of kin or something if he was actually entitled to get it back, but I don't know because I'm not a lawyer. The diamonds thing is a I hope that we actually get a scene that shows us how those came about, but I don't know the theory. I mean, I've heard different theories about the diamonds, so I'm not sure what the specific theory that we're talking about here. I don't think it's $7 million worth of diamonds that he's held on to since this time period, but I could be wrong about that. What do you think? Do you know the
Um,
actual theory he's referring to here, or they're referring to here?
I'm not too sure. No, I don't think the diamonds are because of the $7 million in bail money. Um, and I don't know. I did a video about the diamonds like 2 years ago, so I'd honestly have to, or refresh myself on what I even thought about it back then compared to now because just so much has happened. But we do know that the diamonds are in the Band-Aid box, which is in the shoe box, which was behind the wall of Saul's office during Breaking Bad. So it's implied that Saul put that box there before, because in Better Call Saul season 6, we know he has his office, but it looks very much different due to Francesca trying to decorate it. So whenever
Mm.
Saul changes the decorations and puts up those pillars and changes his office to look like what we know in Breaking Bad, he must have the diamonds by that point. So it is possible that we could see him get the diamonds by the end of the series.
And the diamonds could
Yeah.
be something as simple as just a payment from somebody as well, too. It could be something
Mm.
completely like we're putting so much focus on them, and it could just been a payment.
Yeah, I agree with that as well, and I think they probably will, like I said, explain where they came from. But I haven't heard any great theories that just just made so much sense to me that that I was following it or whatever. Keith Gatchell, thank you for the $5. Appreciate that. Thomas Cunningham, thank you for the $4.99. Hey guys, love all the channels and consistent content. Do you think we'll see Lalo acknowledge Nacho betrayed him?
Great question.
Yeah, I think that I think that Nacho is the thing that brings him back to Jimmy and Kim's house in a way, you know what I mean? Because he realizes that Nacho introduced him to Saul in the first place when he needed a lawyer. So do I think he'll acknowledge it? I mean, I think he knows it. You said it was a great a question, Chase. What are you getting here that I'm not? Because I mean, I don't understand what he's saying by acknowledge. Like acknowledge to who?
I think he might acknowledge it to Jimmy and Kim, and I think that we need
Yeah.
to see something in regards to Lalo talking about Nacho, since we never saw a Lalo versus Nacho confrontation post assassination attempt. And I do think you're right. It's kind of what I was thinking of too, in regards to Nacho being the one that even introduced Lalo to Jimmy in the first place and told them about the whole Tuco encounter. Because if Lalo thinks that Nacho was working for Gus, or Gus was involved, then who else was involved with Nacho's scheme? Could Jimmy know? And that's kind of, what Lalo's plan will be in regards to the next episode, is the fact that Jimmy knows Nacho, Jimmy knows Mike. How much does he know about what they did? Because, Mike was the one that put Lalo in jail in the first place, and then Mike was the one that went to Jimmy to get Lalo out of jail, and Mike was the one that was in the desert with Jimmy. So it just depends how much, this down this rabbit hole that Lalo will take them. But I do think that Nacho knowing Jimmy is one of the main connections that got Lalo to go back to him. So I'm really curious to see if Lalo will acknowledge Nacho and what he truly thinks about him, since we never got a Lalo Nacho confrontation.
Yeah, I mean they mentioned it. I mean the cartel definitely thought that Nacho was the rat and was behind it all, and it's apparent that Lalo would have the same conclusion, and he knows that Gus is behind it, so that connects those people. And like you said, Jimmy then is connected to Gus, even if he doesn't know Gus or why he ended up in the middle of it all. That seems to be the most plausible reason why he would go back there. You know what I mean? Why Lalo would go back to their house. Eric, did you have something you wanted to add to this one?
No, I just think that's why Lalo's back in the apartment right now for two reasons. One, to finally let's hear the story, the real story, finally, because Kim interrupted Jimmy when he was trying to tell the story the last time, and so I think he's there for that. And he's also the connection between Jimmy was working with Nacho as his lawyer. There's a lot of unanswered questions with Nacho, and also what happened in that desert. So that's the first and foremost. And then now, on top of all that, you got a dead body now right beside them, and that doesn't help any negotiations go smoothly whatsoever. So,
Yeah, and the taco truck engineer, thank you for the $4.99. This just hit me. Stopper fell in the storm drain. Lalo was in storm drain. Connection between Lalo and Kim. Well, they're connected in the fact that they're in that house together, like we just said, and there's a dead body between them. I don't think. I mean, there are theories out there that I see in the comments that I don't really pay a lot of attention to. I guess that there's some connection between Kim and Lalo that we've not seen yet. It doesn't seem to play out. I don't know if it's just for fun kind of thing, you know what I mean? But that is a nice connection there between the stopper falling in the drain and the fact that he was there. Ostro 1980, thank you for the $5. The best way to use Walt would be to have more scenes with Saul in Ed's basement before they leave, this time from more of Saul's perspective. This is something I've thought about before. I mentioned it in videos or on the stream. That's a cool amount of time where they do have they spent more than one whole day in there. So there could be some interesting stuff, but it's the same thing. It's sort of like, how does that change the story as far as like what we know about him? Like we could maybe find out something about what's going on with Gene, something that's in Gene's mind that we didn't know before that might paint those scenes different. I mean, I think it's a pretty cool idea. Do either of you want to chime in on that one?
I just want to agree that I think this is one of my favorite theories for seeing more of Walt. Sorry, excuse me. In regards to the whole Breaking Bad flash forward theories, I mean, I did like a 50-minute video thinking of every single possible Walt and Jesse cameo that we could think of, and this is one of my absolute favorites. I think that we should see more of Walt and Saul together after the point that Saul arrives at Ed's store, but before the point that we get that conversation where we have Walt saying, "Oh, it's over," when I say it's over for the second time to Saul, and then he coughs and kind of has to lie down, and Saul says, "Oh, it's over," and then he walks away, and that's the last they ever see of each other. There's a little bit of time in between there that I would love. It would be perfect to just get more dialogue between them. So if we do, or when we do get a Walt cameo, I would love it to be that. The only thing is that we're confirmed to see Jesse as well, so I don't know if that means we're going to get two separate cameos, two separate flash forwards, or what. But as far as just Walt goes, like, that is one that I'm very excited to potentially see.
You want to add something there, Eric?
I agree with that. It's a heck of a lot better than watching Walt wash someone's car, you know what I mean? So
yeah. Yeah, that's the least interesting theory. I mean, I get where people come from when they think, hey, okay, well, that would be that's the thing we know about the show, and wouldn't that be funny to see him in the background? But when you really think it through, there's a lot of better ways that they could tie the two series together, I think. Dion Thompson Davoli, thank you for the $4.99. Thanks for the content. Really enjoying it. Yeah, no problem. We like making it. Or I can't speak for everyone here, but I think it's safe to say that we all like making it, and we like to engage with the content that these guys make, because there's just so much to talk about. J-Dubs Center, thank you for the $5. A couple dark horse predictions for the Francesca phone call if it isn't Kim. Kubi or Ernesto. Both seem like they were always on good terms with him. Yeah, that's true. Neither one of them have played a big role lately. Kubi would be pretty he wouldn't mean anything to people who watch only Better Call Saul. He doesn't exist in the universe yet, so that would be a little bit out of the blue. And Ernesto has been a friend to Jimmy, but ever since he lost his job at HHM, he hasn't really been involved in the story. Do you guys have anything on this?
I can't see being either of them. Good theory though. It's good.
Yeah.
I don't really see it being either of them, but I do want to see some sort of Ernesto cameo. I'm not sure how, but I would love to see a little bit more of him before the show's over.
Maybe he got a job at the car wash afterwards, and that's how that all gets tied together.
I have a feeling he's going to head up the mailroom. He's going to own that mailroom if HHM is still a thing.
Yeah. Thomas Cunningham, thank you again for $4.99. Also, thoughts on final Chuck flashback. Is there any aspect of he and Jimmy's relationship that could be further explored? Thanks, guys. I would like. I would love to see Michael McKean come back. I mean, obviously, I don't think we were going to, though. I think if we were going to see another one from them, it might be interesting to me on a just a sort of understanding the story part of it, like him and Jimmy and Chuck as children, not, like maybe a bit further in the timeline than when we saw the one that was in Lantern. Something to see, something like foundational to how they were, because I mean, Chuck had it in his mind for a long time that Jimmy ripped off their father, and that was the original sin that he could never make up for. He doesn't ever really talk about it in those terms, but I think that's pretty heavily implied throughout things. And that was the idea that he had, was that you were born bad, you've always been bad, and you always will be. Like, you will never change. And so I think it would be, if we were going to see a little bit more of Jimmy and Chuck, I would like to see it back then. What do you guys think? Eric, what do you think about that one?
I'd love to see more Chuck, but I think we probably did see the last of him, and kind of in the most powerful way. We saw him, you talked about earlier in the courtroom there, where you saw, or not the courtroom, in the boardroom, with the intern there, or whatever, the new guy, and you saw Chuck's painting there, and a very, very pivotal scene where Howard basically loses his mind, so to speak. Chuck did as well too, prior to his death, in the trial, and I think that was a good way for us to see Michael, or for Chuck, the last time on the show, setting up a scene where very soon we're going to see Howard die. I can't see him coming back would have any more of an impact, but I would love to see the younger brothers again, it just to see how that shaped Jimmy, maybe, they've always toyed with the idea how if Chuck had made his mom laugh and it wasn't Jimmy that made his mom laugh, we might be in a different place today as well too.
Yeah.
To find out what made them, what happened between the relationship between the mom and the boys. I don't know, but I think we might have seen the last of Chuck in any kind of circumstance on the show.
I mean, I'm not too sure if we're ever going to see Michael McKean again. I really hope we do, just because the more and more I rewatch Better Call Saul, I just enjoy his character. Even as much as Chuck frustrates me, I just really love just his character in general. And so I'm not sure if we'll see more of him and Jimmy, but in regards to the recent events with Howard, a good excuse to bring back Patrick Fabian as well. I would like to see some sort of flashback with Chuck and Howard, maybe preseason one, talking about their like ambitions and everything in regards to HHM, and just a bunch of hopeful attitude type dialogue, and then just directly cut to the current timeline with HHM with a for sale sign in front of it or something like that, just to show how it did not go at all as planned.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. But whenever I'm doing this now, I'm realizing it more and more, that I'm just like, do we have time for that? And it's really kind of sad.
I think it'd be cool for a cold open or something like that.
No, I 100% agree. Like, I get what you're saying, but I just have my logical mind is telling me that, there's just 6 episodes left. There's just 6 cold opens left. Is there time? You know what I mean? It's just, I'm not saying about the idea about it being good or bad, or even plausible. I'm just saying that it kind of sucks that the frame of mind is that the end is near. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
it's a big shadow over everything. Is like, this thing is almost over. Flamethrower Fluff Salisbury. Thank you for the $5. Thank you all for your content. Is there any chance at all we get a scene with Lalo and Tuco, even if it's just a phone call? The fans would love it. I think it would have to be a phone call if we are to believe that, Tuco is still 9 months out of getting out of jail, or it would be pretty hard to justify keeping Lalo around for that long for him to get out. And I don't know how you would be able to do that. And if he was going to call him, there would have to be a good reason for that, which I don't see. There's not one that comes to mind when I'm thinking about it.
I mean,
what do you guys think?
I mean, in regards to Tuco in season 6, I'd love to see a return, whether it's him still in jail and maybe we get a Skinny Pete cameo as well, considering that they were kind of sellies. I would love to see a scene of all the Salamancas together, Hector, the twins, Lalo, Tuco, everyone, because we've never seen them all together before. But, just the fact of I'm unsure of how long Lalo will survive, because they could do a time skip to when Tuco gets out of jail. But the question is, will Lalo already be dead by then?
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think, Eric? Anything else?
I'd love to see a Skinny Pete cameo, but Charles
Yeah.
Baker's kind of gone out to almost debunk that, because I mean he had pitched ideas to the team as well too, like having like Skinny Pete's dad, somehow being it whatever, and he would be playing the older role of himself, or the father, whatever. So I don't think we're going to see that. There's so many things we'd love to see, but again, too, you said, I think the most important thing you said, we got 6 episodes left, and there's not a lot of time. So a lot of these things, as cool as they would be, are just going to be roadblocks for this story as it unravels.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
thing too. I believe when Skinny Pete's actor was on your show, Eric, he even said that he hadn't gotten the call yet, but that could have just been a misdirect. I mean, just
Of course.
look at Spider-Man No Way Home with the other Spider-Man saying, "Oh, we didn't get the call, we didn't get the call." Like, oh well, was
We
it
all
an
did.
email? Was it something else? So you never quite know. And yeah, I do totally agree with you guys that there isn't a lot of time left, but this final season really seems to be doing a victory lap in regards to bringing back old characters, but in a way that serves the current plot and story, so it doesn't feel like filler, like Cliff and Rich and Aaron and Irene and the Kettlemans, like the camera crew. They're all coming back in ways that fit the current story. So it is possible for them to do it, but it's just a matter of if they will or not, or which direction the story will take them.
Yeah. Agreed. Amber T, thank you for the 420. How do you all suspect Gus becomes Breaking Bad Gus? Lalo and Gun. Yeah, I'll throw this one over to Eric, because you said that you're taking the position that you think that Lalo might survive. So what I want to, the problem I have with that is that Gus has been so wrapped up and so not Gus over this entire season because of the fact that Lalo is still out there. So how do you imagine that they get from this Gus to the Breaking Bad Gus, as Amber T is asking? Go
That's
ahead,
a
Eric.
really good. That's a really good question. I'm reading the question over again a couple times. I can go left and right here with this, because I'm going to go with my theory first that I think Lalo lives. So the way they're setting that up down in the underneath the lab, Gus has removed the cable, so all he has to do is a quick connect. Some fans, the electrician fans out there, I went to the extreme to even say that it's a twist connect type thing. So the connection is still there. All Gus has to do is pull that cable, and the electricity is gone. So the lights are going to go out. He's planted the gun, so he's going to try to kill Lalo there. So that on the left, that could be, yes, Gus becomes the Breaking Bad Gus by killing Lalo. I mean, of that nature, the cold-hearted killer, or Lalo escapes, and we have to find some other way where Gus becomes that killer. So that's a balance scale. Who knows on that one? I still think Lalo's not going to die. So Gus has to come up with another way to flip that switch to become the cold-hearted killer that he is.
The only thing I want to add about the whole the Chekhov's gun down in the super lab is that yeah, we've never seen Gus kill anyone directly with a gun. Whenever we do, it's with his hands, whether it's the box cutter or with the bag with Arturo in season 4. So I think if we did see Gus actually use a gun for the first time, it would be really impactful. But at the same time, I'm not sure if Lalo would go out that way that easily. My leading theory is still that Mike will kill Lalo, but yeah, we'll just have to wait and see if he survives or not. With all the paranoia that Gus has had throughout season 6, I'm not sure if he'll be okay to just kind of move on with his life, especially after just now learning confirmation that Lalo is alive and his suspicions were correct.
Just as a quick, I've just thought about this now. Is it possible that maybe Gus doesn't have to kill Lalo on his own hands? Is Mike going to be there? Can he see? Can he see from the cameras down there? I don't know if there's even cameras there yet. But maybe that gun is intended for Lalo to pick up. Lalo's about to kill Gus, and someone takes Lalo out. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, I'm really not sure. I mean, whenever he was pacing it off, and he had the place where he knew it was at, to me it seemed like the intention was for us to notice that he was putting it somewhere where he would be able to get it no matter what happens. Like he was being very careful to put it somewhere, but also remember exactly where it was at. And then that was a while ago, and nothing. We haven't gone back there, so it's hard to say. It's hard to say what's going to happen before we know how he planned on that becoming important. You know what I mean? Like, how is he thinking he's going to get him into that space? You know, like him discovering it's one thing, but to be in a situation where they're in there together, that kind of makes a lot of, like, you know, like, does he invite him there, or does he let him sneak in so it's a trap? You know what I mean? Like, there's so many different options of what he's thinking there that it's hard for me to kind of put it together.
Well, although I do think that it will eventually come to fruition, it definitely was an intentional misdirect where we thought that the final 607 confrontation with Lalo was going to go down in the Super Lab with Gus or Mike or Tyrus, and then Lalo ended up going to the apartment instead. So I'm not too sure, but I think it might have been Gil that said something about, you know, Lalo, or sorry, Gus checking the lights to see them turn on and off, and then and then pacing towards the gun to see how many steps he has to take in order to grab it. I'm not sure how important that'll be. You think you could just run to where the, you know, the construction vehicle is, and or the bulldozer or whatever, and just kind of grab it in the heat of things? And also, how are you going to really be able to shoot someone in the dark? I guess there
that's
are
what I was saying when we were talking about it. It's
yeah,
like,
yeah, you too, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, I remember you guys talking about that beforehand. So I'm just really curious how that's all going to come to fruition, or if it even still will. I mean, I imagine that they won't just leave that in the air for forever, but I'm really curious how they're going to come back to it now. I don't know if they're going to somehow trick Lalo to go down there, if they're going to force him to, or something like that, but I would like to see how that would come to fruition. I do think that it's a cool idea Eric had with Lalo being the one to actually find and grab the gun, but then it'll be too little too late. I don't know. I just have to wait and see, I guess.
yeah. And this next one is also about the gun. Moises Balbuena, thank you for the $9.99. Watching Gus hiding the gun reminds me of Walter hiding the ricin, as he used it to kill Lydia. I wonder if it'll be used on Kim. What do you guys think? So he's saying that, you know, he put it there for one reason, but it'll end up being used for a different reason. Does that seem possible?
I don't think we're going to see Kim die.
I don't want to see Kim die. Even though she has become a more complicated character, I still don't want to see her die. I understand that.
Yeah, I don't think that Kim's gonna end up going down to the Super Lab for any reason, to be honest. And also, if the whole Kim kills Lalo theory, I believe that Jimmy still doesn't know that Lalo's dead in Breaking Bad. All of the "it wasn't me, it was Ignacio. Did Lalo send you?" And, you know, it's still possible to blame a dead man, so he could say it was Nacho, even though he knows that he's dead. But, you know, just forever being in fear of Lalo, saying, "Did Lalo send you?" Even if they do kill, even if Mike and Gus do kill Lalo, and Mike tells Jimmy, he could just possibly have so much PTSD and trauma that he could just never fully believe him. So even if Lalo does die by the time Breaking Bad happens, I don't think that Jimmy ever truly believes it or even knows.
Absolutely. I just noticed the time, Eric. I just wanted to check in with you. I know you said that you could stick around for an hour and a half. So if you're running out of time,
12 another 5 minutes.
Yeah. What I mean, I was just gonna say, whenever you're ready, just let me know, and we'll let you plug your stuff before you go. And
thank you. Appreciate
it. And I just, you know, you can stay as long as you want. I just didn't want to keep you against your will if you.
Oh no, I'd love to be here longer. No, I have to get in the morning tomorrow, but I appreciate it so much. Trust me.
Yeah. Okay. So James Egan, that's a great username. I thought it was James Egan. James Egan's probably your actual name. Yeah. So awesome name, by the way. Australian 799. Thank you. Love your content, guys. Eric, is there a chance of Bob Odenkirk appearing on Inside the Gilliverse soon? So that's directly for you.
Okay, well, I'm glad I'm able to say it here on a great show. The answer to that is yes. Bob will be back probably just before the series finale, before the very final episode, or maybe just after. But we're going to get him just a while back. But you can imagine what he's doing right now with press interviews. So it will be towards the end of the season, but we will have him back. And it might be a shorter than a 60-minute one. It might be 30 minutes or something of that nature. But yes, Bob will be back for sure this year.
That's awesome. I think the first time the first time you had him on, it was a surprise in Peters or something like that, wasn't it?
It was a prank. It was a prank.
Yeah.
We played Melissa, Peter's assistant, and I. We played a trick on Peter, and I was able to get Bob, and we made it look like Bob was crashing the stream, and it was quite funny.
I remember that episode. I really love that episode. Everyone has to go check that out if they haven't yet already, because there's a lot of good stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah, I couldn't remember the exact details, but I do remember that as well.
Yeah, Peter was just as excited as we are right now, and that's what's funny. Like all these people, everyone has heroes, right? We have our heroes. Our heroes have heroes. Even Peter was kind of starstruck for a moment too. It was pretty cool, and he works with them every day. He wrote the show, you know. So.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Okay, Tabasco Volta. Thank you for the $5. My favorite theory is that they'll use Howard's suit to move the body and car. Perfect way to take a hilarious gag from past episodes and make it dark. Yeah, this is a funny theory, absolutely, that he just impersonates Howard. I don't know that we're going to see that happen, but I agree with you 100% that is hilarious. Do either of you guys want to add anything to that?
I just want to say quick, I think that if they do something like this, it'll be in regards to framing him going to Belize. Like maybe Jimmy will dress up as Howard, drive his car to the airport, leave it there, kind of pretend to check through security, and then just kind of bounce out a side door or something like that.
That's good. I could go with that.
Yeah, I'm scrolling here. Okay, here we go. Sorry. That's a long username. That thank you for the 5R. Hi from Brazil. Pete, talk about the scenes in season 6 trailer that we haven't seen in the show yet. For instance, Lalo with a gun looking at Gus trailer. I'm trying to think. It's been a while since I watched the preseason trailer, and I didn't realize there were any scenes that we didn't see yet.
Yeah, I thought we saw every scene. The only scene I can think, or the instances in the trailer I can think of Lalo with a gun is when he's hiding in Werner's house. That's the only thing I can think of, honestly.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of too. Whenever he said that. Looking at Gus's trailer, that wasn't. Oh, you're thinking about it was his security guy who was doing that. That wasn't Lalo. Now I remember. It's through the scope. It was right before they talked to Nacho, and
yeah,
whenever he made that call.
That was someone protecting Gus and Mike.
Yeah, it's the guy that was. I can't remember his name. He's a side character, but he's one we've seen. He's one that he's credited. I can't remember the name, but yeah, that wasn't Lalo. That was definitely one of his security guys, and he was just sort of watching whenever they were, wondering if basically before they found out what happened to Nacho. Okay, Richie Fobbs, $9.99. Thank you for that. Anyone mention Kim using back service to move back to Nebraska? Then we get Gene, and Kim scene towards the end of the show in Nebraska. This is something that we've answered quite a few times, and I'll just say that we were talking about it earlier. Maybe you heard that. I think that if they do get back together in Nebraska, it won't be because she ends up there as part of escaping. I think that that'll be something that they have to orchestrate in one way or the other. And it's part of the reason why that this is something I wanted to talk about. And I know you're going to be leaving soon, but that Kim being around in the timeline is pretty important to the story, or at least it feels like it to me now, because if not, what is Gene got going for him besides this conflict with with Jeff? You know what I mean? Like there has to be something that could happen at the end, for us to anticipate, like, will it or won't it, right? And if you kill Kim, I mean, even if it was Lalo, like say if your idea that he gets away somehow, that doesn't feel like a complete I mean, it could, by the next couple of episodes, things could change, but it doesn't feel like that would be the completion to the story at the end of it all if he has a final showdown with Lalo in Nebraska. Like, it almost has to be, this thing with Kim. So I feel like that that option has to be on the table almost going into the end of it. What do you guys think?
I'll say that too. I'm going to argue my own point. Like, I don't think Kim's going to die, but you almost need to see one of those two. There's two big characters left. Those two. We obviously know Jimmy's not going to die. Saul's not going to die. But I mean, I almost think one of them has to go. And I know I'm being a hypocrite when I say that because I don't think either one of them are. And I do think one has to go. Who is it? I don't think it's going to be Kim. I mean, if I don't bet, I don't gamble on anything, but I would put money that Kim is not going to die. And I guess if I was throw a little bit of coin to the side, Lalo might. I don't know, but somebody has to. I think.
I was just wondering if you could elaborate on that in regards to because you think Kim is going to survive. So do you think, Eric, that she's going to disappear? Do you think that she's going to appear in the Gene timeline, or what do you think is in store for Kim's future necessarily? If you have anything in mind.
I think she might go into witness relocation without even going to the vacuum, like just, the disappearer, Ed. I think she's just going to go into witness relocation and change her identity, or she might not even to that. She might just run herself and completely change her look, change her whole everything about herself and disassociate with everyone, and maybe just have that random phone call with Jimmy or some kind of communication with him somehow, smoke signals or something. I think she might just run and bail on everything.
All right, cool, great opinions. Yeah.
Again, I don't know.
Amber T, thank you for the 420. She thinks that Kim's parents definitely went to prison, and I think that's about what we were talking about before. But I do agree that that's possible. As far as Kim. As far as Kim not being around, like I said, I just feel like it just cuts so much of the potential out of the end of the series if she's gone, because she's the thing that's important to Jimmy, and Jimmy's the main character of this story. You know what I mean? So it's not like any of the stuff that's related to Walter White and Breaking Bad is secondary for this series. It's all fun, and I can't wait to see how it all comes together. But like that's the thing for Jimmy. So, and I feel like whatever his central conflict at the end, it has to involve her in order for it to be satisfying. RA9, yeah, that thank you for the 4.99. I can't pronounce your name, sorry. Hey, do you think the golden toilet in Wine and Roses is Kim's golden throne? No, I don't. My thought on that was that was the one sign initially that made me feel pretty positive that Kim never lived in that house. What do you guys think about the Kim's golden throne theory?
No, I think that no woman would want any part of that. You know how women are. Like everything is nice and neat, and no, it's just, no.
Yeah, no, that's a bit too much. I don't know what the fixation on toilets has been for this show, not just this season, but the whole show in general. But that I don't know. I don't really got much to say about that.
Yeah. YouTube user, $10. Thank you. Courtney's Reviews has an interview with a lawyer that explains Jimmy would be entitled to the bail. She'd be a great addition to your chat. The number from the ballet key scam is the day Howard dies. I
looked up her channel in a different tab, and it looks like she's doing some pretty good stuff. Obviously haven't clicked on any of her videos yet in the middle of a stream, but it looks like she just started a few months ago, so it seems like she's relatively new, but she's garnered a decent audience. So yeah, be always open to talking to different like-minded Better Call Saul creators in the future for sure.
I think she'd bring good discussion to your channel for sure. Yeah.
That's cool. I don't know about this. I didn't see it, so I'll take your word for it that he would be entitled to the bail. It seems like that seems surprising to me, but there's a lot of things that seem dumb and surprising about the criminal justice system in the United States. So I guess it's consistent with my experience with it so far. Like I don't know what I don't know what the nuts and bolts are, but I'll take your word for it. Thank you for that. Daniel Cortez, $2. Thank you for that. I think we'll see Jesse with Emilio. I think there is a good chance that we could see Emilio. I don't, and that could be like what you were talking about earlier, Chase, about how they might have separate. They wouldn't show up together. They would be separate.
Like maybe Walt is a Breaking Bad flash forward, but it is possible that we could see Jesse in the Better Call Saul timeline. It just all depends on how much they can de-age Aaron Paul at this point. Because I think it would be cool to see Jesse and Emilio working together before that big bust in the very first episode of Breaking Bad.
Yeah, I don't think Jesse needs to be there for Emilio to show up, though.
No.
I mean, and I think you lose a lot of potential when you don't have Aaron Paul and Bryan Cranston on screen together. I mean, that's what we signed up for. You know what I mean?
That's true. I just never thought of them having separate cameos before, so I'm just
thinking,
because
I mean, those two sharing a frame is why we're all here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would feel kind of like it would feel kind of unsatisfying if we saw them both but not together. But we'll see.
Agreed.
Maximum Rock and Roll, thank you for the $5. No comment. Just keep up the good work, Pete. Big fan. Well, thank you for that, and I will be. I have been working on a Howard video that'll be out within the next 24 hours, I suppose. I was trying to get it out before this, but I had some other stuff come up yesterday, so that's definitely coming. Thank you again. Radio Chaos, $5 Canadian. Maybe we'll see Jesse when his friend Combo hires Saul, like was referenced in Breaking Bad. I think this is a misconception.
Pretty sure it was Emilio.
It was Emilio.
Mm-hmm.
And
we should back into that whole theory we were talking about seeing Emilio. It is true that we could see Emilio without Jesse. It could be related to Crazy 8 as well, since Crazy 8 already knows Jimmy.
Yeah, Combo is a tragic character that I would love to see again. He was kind of a scene stealer in his own way. But I can't really think of a way that he would fit in that wasn't kind of contrived at this point. Like it would feel pretty disconnected.
Unless it's just like a very, very small Easter egg where he's someone in the waiting room that we only see talk to Francesca for like half a second or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I really like the character. I think the guy who played him did a really good job of making him kind of infectious. Like he's kind of annoying but infectious at the same time. And it would be fun to see him. Eric, you need to get going.
Yeah, I'm going to jump, but I think I think if we do, we're going to see Walter White and Jesse Pinkman. I think we're going to get some dialogue. I don't think it's going to be a long scene, but I think it may be more than just like in a restaurant or something of that nature. I think we're going to see something, and whether they have to do the de-aging or whatever, I don't know, and I don't even really care at this point.
Look at Mike. I mean, nobody.
I know, right? Yeah. I mean, you could even age Mike if you want to, make him even older, and I still wouldn't care. Everyone loves Mike, but I think we're going to see some dialogue, and I think it will be more than just fan service. It'll cater to the story. But 6 episodes are going to be flying by. Like we're always saying, we have to wait these until July, whatever. It's going to be here before we know it. And then we're going to be crying because it's over, and then we're going to be here, but we're going to be having therapy on this show and our shows, trying to deal with the post Better Call Saul world. But and I wish I could stay all night. I do have to jump because I have some functions tomorrow. But I want to thank you. This has been an absolute pleasure. You're doing a fantastic job here on the channel. I've been watching your live chat tonight too. I see a lot of really cool faces in there, some that I know. And Chase, I'm a big fan of your work as well. As you know, we talk on Twitter a lot and stuff like that. So an absolute pleasure. And again, I learned so much from both you guys tonight, all the people in the chat. I never, ever profess to be a know-it-all when it comes to this. I just push buttons and talk about the shows that I love. And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man. I really like what you're doing over there. I think people should check it out. lot of, I mean, you've got access to a lot of these people that we're talking about week in and week out, and I think you get some pretty good insights out of them. And we'll be doing this. I don't think we're going to be doing this throughout the break, but we will be doing this for the last 6 episodes, and there'll be some additional streams in there mixed in for sure. So hopefully we can have you back in the second half and get a little bit more of what you're thinking about how things are playing out. Do you want to just plug your stuff a little bit here?
Sure. Well, as I told you off the air as well too, and I'll tell your viewers right now as well too, I'm going to invite you to come over and be a celebrity guest host for an episode and because we're going to be carrying this show. We're going to be finishing Inside the Gilliverse in season 3. We're in our about 11th episode right now of season 3, and we've renewed until January of next year with some of our sponsors. So we're sticking around. So I'm going to invite you over, and I don't know who the guest will be, but it'll be a great guest, and you can be a co-host for the night with me. But this coming Friday, we have Julian Emery and Jeremy Shamos, who play obviously the Kettlemans, and they're not going to be in character this time. They're just going to be themselves. I'm sure we'll get some Kettleman mannerisms, but that's this Friday night at 9:00 Eastern. And then we're going to be doing a bit of a Ozark / Better Call Saul crossover with one of well, I shouldn't say that. It's a actor from Ozark who's a huge Better Call Saul fan, who's also playing in Stranger Things as well too. And we're not going down the Ozark rabbit hole. I love that show, but one show is enough. So that'll be coming up. And Gordon Smith is coming up again for a second time on the show. And other than that, I don't know who else. I have to look at the notes, but every Friday night, 9:00 Eastern. And I think you've got the links in your description. So thank you for that as well too.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I would love to come on there and talk with you. And I think it's such a cool, it's such a cool story how you contacted Tom, and you guys ended up hitting it off and doing that. So it's great work that you're doing. Everyone should check it out. And like I said, we'll definitely have you back, and I'll see you over there. So thanks for coming out.
My pleasure. And for the record, Tom still doesn't like the name Inside the Gilliverse. He told me that he doesn't like the name.
Yeah, I heard you saying that, but I kind of get it. I didn't really get why he had an aversion to it until I heard the first one where you had Vince come on.
Yeah.
And Vince said that it's really a misnomer because so many people work on it. You know what I mean? But
Well,
I think it's a good name. I think it that's the way we all kind of think about it. I know you said you got it from something that Pete said.
Yeah.
Peter Gould said. So yeah, I think it's fitting. And I'm fascinated with Tom. I think he's really great, but maybe he's wrong here.
Oh yeah, that's funny. But I did steal it from Peter, and I'm waiting to get a bill in the mail for what I owe him for the name. But Tom, I love Tom. I love his family. He's great. He's been really good to me. He's become a very good friend now, and he's one of the kindest people on the planet. And he just happens to write some of the best episodes in television. So there's that. Love you, Tom.
All right. Well,
all right.
We'll see you soon.
We'll see you
soon. Have a good one.
Thank you so much.
Thanks again.
Bye.
All right. So back to it. How are you doing on time, Chase?
I'm doing good. I guess we're getting close to the 2-hour mark. It all depends. I guess how many more super chats come in, and if you have other plans afterwards. I feel like we could probably go up to the 2-hour mark here.
Yeah, definitely. We should be able to get through a little bit faster the remaining super chats that are here, and then we'll reassess when we get to the end there.
Sure.
Reginald-esque, thank you for the $9.99. Could we see some origins of how Jesse started cooking as Chili P, or some classroom scenes when Walt was Jesse's chemistry teacher? I mean, these things are all things that could happen. The classroom scenes and all of that. I mean, that's all origin story stuff for Breaking Bad, but I don't really know how it serves the Jimmy McGill story. I mean, there would have to be some connective tissue there. What do you think?
Well, I think that's an interesting theory. I think there are a handful of theories in regards to seeing them in the prequel timeline and the Better Call Saul timeline, but again, it just has to do with how well they're going to be able to de-age the actors. If so, I guess if they show Walt during the Better Call Saul timeline. One pro is that he won't, have to wear a bald cap because he still has his hair. But then a con is that, Walt doesn't get into the criminal world until 2008 when Breaking Bad starts. So if we're going to see anything criminal, whether it's the chili pea recipe or whatnot, it'll have to be Jesse. But otherwise, I just don't think there's that much interesting stuff that they could do with Walt pre 2008 since he's not necessarily a criminal yet. There is a handful of options, but I think I would prefer to see some sort of Breaking Bad flash forward, kind of a missing scene that type of thing we saw in El Camino.
Yeah. And like, I think a lot of those details, like I said, they don't really bother me as much. Like, I know people went insane about the bald cap on in El Camino, and that just really wasn't something that ever affected the the experience for me. Yeah, like I noticed it, but I also noticed that it's a movie, and that everything in it is kind of made up. You know what I mean? I don't know. Like, it seems like weird details that people obsess on that really don't take away from my experience anyways.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't really notice anything with that while watching the show. Apparently, not only was there a bald cap, but they also kind of CGI'd his head to look smaller. So maybe that's where the uncanny valley that some people are talking about, maybe that's where it came from. But it definitely didn't bother me at all, honestly.
I
And
was just
and
like, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and even the other Better Call Saul characters, like, yeah, if you look at Mike and Gus in Better Call Saul, and then you go look at them in Breaking Bad, just going directly from one to another could possibly be a little bit jarring, but just watching Better Call Saul as is, like, I really have no complaints at all.
Yeah, like with the El Camino thing, I mean, I was just like, that's Walter White. I was just pumped that he was in the movie. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't really feel the need to justify the details. You know what I mean? It was just like, hell yeah, I wanted to see Walt and Jesse show up, and they did.
Yeah, again, I feel like you really have to scrape the bottom of the barrel to find any sort of complaints within this universe. For the most part, I just really enjoy it as is.
Yeah. Paul Berry, thank you for the $5. Do you think that Kim knew that being Saul had consequences? I think no. I think that was part of the lesson that they learned, was that they might be really good at what they're doing and planning things out, but they didn't have as much control as they thought they did, and it had terrible consequences. I think that was part of the lesson, because otherwise I think they just go and continue to do that. You know what I mean? Like, they are really good at scamming people, and when do you ever stop? You know what I mean? It's like one of those things, like, if you had a scam that you could make some money, and that nobody would find out about it, and nobody would get hurt in the immediate aftermath, what's going to stop you from doing that every time that you need money? You know what I mean? Like, it's not something you can just walk away from when it's working. And I mean, I think they vaguely understood that. I just think that they thought that they could handle anything because they were going to be prepared, and it didn't work out that way.
Yeah, I mean, it goes a lot into what Tom said on the Hollywood Reporter interview and the Insider podcast, is that Howard's death is really the major consequence to get them to realize that, their actions do have consequences, even ones that they could have never anticipated. So I don't think she knew about consequences beforehand, but this is definitely an eye opener for her, and that's exactly what the creators were going for.
Yeah, and the fact of the matter is, Jimmy did know, because he already did that, but he never
Yeah,
explained that to her. You know what I mean? Like, him doing the insurance thing, like, that pretty directly led to his brother's death. Like, even more
yeah.
so than what's happening with Howard, in a way. You know what I mean? Like, he did something senseless just because he could, and that actually was what, before that, Chuck was actually doing well. He was recovering. He was, you know what I mean? He was living life again. And that insurance thing is what sent him to his demise.
Yeah, that's the whole thing, and just sort of the consequences for both of them is different because for Kim, it's knocking her down a peg, making her realize that her consequences do have actions, and then for Jimmy, it's a consequence for him because he knew about all this because of Chuck, but he didn't learn his lesson, and now it's happened again.
Yeah, and he wasn't even so much of that. It was that he couldn't say no to her. You know what I mean? Like he was hesitant to get into it, but not enough to say no. I'm not going to do this because he can't really say no to her. So it's a
Hmm.
fascinating situation. Matthias Munchmeyer, thank you for the CLP 1000. Have we seen the last of Kim's mom? Gold thinks no. Uh
Hmm. Well,
I
I
don't know what
mean,
he's I don't know what he's referring to when he says Gould thinks no. Like
yeah,
Gould a lot of times will say things like we may not have seen the last of her, you know?
just because he doesn't want to be
So
finite about it.
yeah, so
I don't.
I don't know. Do you know of any time when he said that we have not? Because if Peter Gould said that we will see Kim's mom again, then we will because he's in charge of of the show, right? But I think that he's trying to be vague. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's definitely possible. I would like to see more, but
Just depends
I
how
don't.
coy he's trying to be with it. Like, I feel like the context of when he said that really matters because
Yeah,
I don't know if it was with an article interview or an actual interview. I know they just did a bonus inside, or sorry, thinking about Eric. I know they did a bonus insider podcast just talking about season 6, and they talked about American Greed. I think it just went out today or yesterday. I haven't checked it out yet, so maybe he said it on there, but playing with the idea that maybe we will see Kim's mom again. Maybe that implies that she did survive. Maybe she did go to jail. I don't know if maybe she'll get released or if Kim goes back to her hometown. Maybe we'll get a Kim visits her mom in jail scene. But again, it all depends, what they want to do with the story, how Kim's fate ends up, and the limited time that they have left.
yeah. I listened to the Insider this morning. It was they. I don't think he said anything on there. It wasn't Peter didn't do a lot on that one. It was a lot of Vince because he's. It turns out he's a big fan of American Greed, and they talked about the process of that a lot more than anything. And it's good. It's a good episode, but
Yeah, I'll definitely be
um,
checking that out later tonight. I just haven't gone around to it yet. I was doing other stuff earlier.
yeah. Mo for low. Thank you for the $5. Any chance of a post Breaking Bad series featuring Gene after BCS is finished? I just don't think that I mean, I take them at their word that they're done with this universe now. I mean, they've been doing it for 15 years. And there's a part of me that would like to see more, but there's also a part of me that would like to see what else they do outside of that universe.
Yeah, I don't think that we're gonna see another full series. It's possible we could get a Gene Netflix movie special, kind of like El Camino. I mean, if Vince ever has story that he wants to tell, maybe 2, 3, 4 years down the line, he could, eventually return, just kind of like how he brought El Camino into fruition. But I feel like maybe they might leave the Gene ending open ended. I don't know if that'd be disappointing or if they could do it in a satisfying way, but to be honest, I would personally like to see an entire Netflix movie just about Gene, but that's about it. I don't think there's going to be a full Gene series, so to speak.
Yeah. David Roberts, thank you for the $5. Has anyone asked if episode 8 could be a Gene only episode? No, nobody did ask that today. I don't think that there's I don't think that's the way it'll go. I think that there's an outside possibility that there could be a Gene like the traditional uh, flash forward, just cold open. But I think that we're gonna not get to Gene until we get to Gene is kind of how my thoughts are. I think episode 8 will pick up right where episode 7 left off. Like, like right where it left off. Like he'll Lalo will say the next thing that he was gonna say after let's talk. It is a Vince Gilligan episode. But I don't know anything else that would make me think that we would go into Gene at this point.
Yeah, I don't think we'll see Gene in episode 8 just purely because they wrote the season not knowing that it would get split until afterwards. Maybe if they did
Yeah.
know that there was part 1 and part 2 going into it. They could kind of start it off with a Gene scene, but as much as I want to, I don't really think that's going to happen, even with the kind of trailer trickery that teaser gave us in Kim's apartment.
Yeah, I think that, I did a video talking about that, and I mean, I think that teaser was just supposed to be, evocative. It's just supposed to make us think about, where we're headed, and Gene is in that future. There's also, that empty apartment where they don't live there anymore, and all of that stuff. It's just more visual than it is anything that we can expect to see. Whisper Gaming, thank you for the $9.99. Theories about Kim's Zafiro Anejo stopper. Peter says we need to keep an eye on it, and it was described as sharp in 606. Might she use it to self-harm or harm someone else? We already answered this earlier, Whisper Gaming. Someone asked the exact same question. I don't know that I have any more to add on this. How about you, Chase?
Not really. I'll just say I don't think Kim is going to self-harm herself, and if she does use it to kill someone, it should be someone that Jimmy knows about. And so if Jimmy still thinks Lalo's alive in Breaking Bad, as shocking as it would be, I don't think that Kim is gonna kill Lalo.
Yeah, I don't think self-harm would make a lot of sense in how I expect the last part of the season to play out, but I could be wrong too. It would be weird to me if Jimmy kept that, if it was involved in any kind of self-harm of the woman that he loved. Like if someone commits suicide, you don't really keep
Yeah.
something like that. I mean, after the fact.
Yeah. And again, who knows if it's the exact same bottle stopper or if he just got another one from another bottle of Zafiro Anejo. It's kind of the same thing with the painting that
I do.
Howard.
I know it's the exact one. I feel
Well,
like I do.
okay, well, I was just thinking about the
I'm
painting
just
that.
yeah, I'm just teasing a little bit, but I'm just I mean, like it would be pretty surprising if they put that there and then it was just like, oh yeah, this is a different one.
Yeah. I was just thinking in regards to the painting that Saul still has in Breaking Bad that's being taken down from his house. It's that same painting that they had the Howard Kahn board on, and Howard has his brains blown out onto it. So
That
does Jim keep the same painting, or does he just get another one that's the same?
that's a great point though. They do have that painting, which is really macabre when you think about it, huh?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, that's all.
like his blood is absolutely on that, if not his brains, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
there's definitely they clean that, and then he decides to keep it around. That is something that kind of changed in the opening teaser. Now that we saw the last episode. William, thank you for the $2. Gene actually taking the call instead of Francesca. Now I'm trying to think about the timing of all this. By the time we see Gene, that should have already come and gone, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I do believe that to be the case. We don't know for sure, obviously, but yeah, it would be kind of hard to construct a timeline where he disappeared, left, everything was, wrapped up with Jeff, and then he goes back and takes this call that was just a few months out from when he was leaving, as far as I know about it. But thank you for that. Sarah Lee C, thank you for the $5. Do you think we'll only have Walt and Jesse for a cameo? I feel like they need a 3-episode arc, but it seems unlikely now. Yeah, I think it'll be I agree with what Eric said earlier. I think it'll be something substantial. I think it'll be something story related that'll contribute, but I don't think we'll see an actual arc. I think it'll just be like sort of a crossover. Just because, I mean, I think that they have to make BCS to stand on its own. So if they get too crazy with it, then they sort of have to explain a lot of stuff that most of us already know from watching Breaking Bad, but not everyone does, and they can't really assume that everyone would.
It just all depends how far they take the timeline. Like my leading theory is that it's just going to be some sort of maybe cold open Breaking Bad flash forward, but it is entirely possible we could get a 2 to 3 episode arc with them, kind of like how we had a 2 episode arc with Hank in season 5. But it just depends how much they connect the two timelines. If it's going to be a seamless connection between Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, because Better Call Saul's still in 2004, Breaking Bad's in '08. So I don't know. Is it possible they could have major time skips like the one they had in Better Call Saul season 5 or the few they had in Breaking Bad season 5? We'll just have to wait and see how they merge the timeline in regards to that, if there's still even a gap of time in between the two shows or not.
Yeah, I wouldn't rule out that they would have multiple. They would show up multiple times, but like I said, I don't think that it's going to be. So yeah, I agree with what you said there, that they, it depends, but I just don't think that they're going to shift too far onto their story. It's more about how it connects with what's going on with Jimmy, and then the future of what happens with Gene when we get to that. Jeremy, thank you for the $4.99. Will Kim and Jimmy's relationship officially end at some point in the BCS timeline? If so, will they split up on bad terms? I feel like now it's less likely they're going to split up on bad terms, but it's always possible. They might cross line. I mean, it's very possible that one of them or both of them or cross lines in a way that they're just not the same people anymore. Those are all possibilities. I think they're going to split, and it's going to be. I mean, it seems kind of straightforward, but I think it's just going to be kind of tragic that they have to, because of what happened with Howard.
Yeah, I mean, on one hand, this whole situation with Howard could be that something unforgivable that's been teased ever since the season 5 finale. But on the other hand, I mean, the last time that Jimmy and Kim got in a huge argument and they were about to break up, they turned around and decided to get married. I know that is more professional than romantic, the reason why they did that in regards to not being, or not, testifying against each other. But that's just something you think of. Every time you think they're going to break up, they get closer together. So who knows at this point, honestly.
And it's part of how they are. I mean, one of the things I love about Kim's character is that she's not secondary. She has agency. She could do what she wants, but they are codependent on each other. Like Howard called it out in a way that they're perfect for each other, and that they both have something missing, and that's what draws them together in a way that we don't truly understand yet. But I think that people are quick to look at it and say, well, this isn't traditional relationship, and maybe it's not, maybe they're not as openly passionate as some of the better romances on TV or whatever. But I think that there is a connection there, and that it's essential. And so whenever they're forced to be apart, then that they both lose something. It's not just Jimmy losing something, but it's both of them who can't have this thing that works for them.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew Loudon, thank you for the $10. Why are people obsessed with backstory? This is already a backstory. Why does Jimmy's early life or Kim's matter? Pretty sure Vince is about darkness in people. Well, if he's about darkness, I don't know why understanding that better would be a problem.
I mean, they try not to focus on backstory in regards to this one moment made this character this way, and they only really tell us backstories about these characters when they really need to, or when they think it's really important. The two Kim flashbacks are I guess most important. We have seen Jimmy in the mailroom a few times, and we have gotten hints at Kim's backstory through dialogue, so they don't focus it on too much, but when they do focus on it, it is fairly important, and it does give us a new outlook on the characters. It's all to supplement the current story. They wouldn't just give us backstory for no reason. Everything has a reason.
Yeah, well, I think this idea about him being about darkness, I think that's part of it, but I think when you look at it when you really zoom out, it's about choices that people make, and like I think at least if we just look at Better Call Saul, it's about the sum of their choices and the way that they end up, and I feel like in Breaking Bad they were Walter was he was a lot more of Heisenberg than you realized, and that was slowly revealed throughout. Better Call Saul, I don't think it's exact one to one of the same thing. I think that you know these are flawed, complicated characters, but we're not really sure yet if they are. We're just sure that they made some decisions that have turned their lives into something that they didn't expect it to be.
Yeah, well, to quote Jimmy quoting Mike, we make choices and it puts us on a road.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. Thank you for that, though. Stephen Brunel, thank you for the 5. Do you think that Kim didn't tell Jimmy that Lala was alive because she believed that Jimmy wouldn't be able to pull off the D-Day cons had he known? I think that was a part of it. I think I think she maybe also just sort of wanted to shield him, because I think part of the whole motivation for doing this con, like at least for the idea, was that she was trying to make Jimmy feel better when they were in that hotel room. She thought,
Yeah.
how can I make my husband, he's just been through some shit, and like how can I help him to get out of it? And she thinks, well, we've always been, when we do a scam together, we always come together, we're always livened up or whatever, you know what I mean? They're kind of at their hottest when they're doing that. So I think that has something to do with it. But I don't think it, when you say that, whether you're saying that they wouldn't be able to pull it off, I don't think that she was sacrificing his well-being because of her motivation, of her wanting to do that. I think that it's just, part of what we were talking about before. They didn't really see the consequences because they know that they had it planned out,
Yeah. You pretty much hit the nail on the head there. I agree with you. I'll keep it quick in regards to that. But yeah, I think half of it is a little bit of Kim being in over her head, thinking she can now control the situation herself, keeping things from Jimmy when Jimmy used to keep things from her. And yeah, I do completely agree that she didn't want to shatter Jimmy, and he was just starting to get his groove back after kind of the week or two time skip between 603 and 604. And she didn't want to shatter that again because she needed him for what they were doing.
Yeah, totally. I'm sorry, I'm scrolling here a little bit. I think we may have made it to uh the last one that was up on the board. So
Nice, nice.
all right, so we are at 2 hours 5 minutes. Let's see. Yeah, like I was saying earlier, one of the things that that I've been thinking about a lot more, is this idea of the fact that Howard was he was sort of the last thing, besides Kim, that's left over from the early part of the story, the Chuck part of the story, the Jimmy McGill part of the story, I guess, as it is.
Mm-hmm.
And as I've been putting this video together about him and looking at the events that led to that happening, it really feels like we're ready to transition into the Breaking Bad phase of Jimmy Saul Goodman's life. Are you feeling that?
Yeah, well, Tom Schnauz mentioned on the Insider podcast that having these two separate worlds, the lawyer side and the cartel side, smashed together is what resulted in Lalo killing Howard in the crossfire of it all. So I do feel like the lawyer side of the show is over. I feel like the two parts of the show have merged; they have become one. And yeah, the show in season 6 feels just entirely different from the first 3 seasons, as I was kind of telling you behind the scenes a few days ago. Like, I was recently editing my season 2 tier list. Kind of baffled me how different the show feels now compared to then. It's true that not many people know Jimmy, with Chuck, Howard, and Kim being the 3 that knew him the most, and with both Chuck and Howard gone, as I was telling you beforehand, I feel like Kim's fate is the final key, holding us back from fully entering just full Breaking Bad vibes. And even in season 5, the show felt like it was entering Breaking Bad territory, but still with the hint of Better Call Saul vibes lingering. So, I don't think that this show is entirely Breaking Bad now, but we are just inching closer and closer. I feel like there's maybe only one or two key moments that are, stopping us from fully getting into Breaking Bad, which is nice. It feels like even though there's only a few episodes left, there's still a lot that could be said. I feel like there's only a few key moments in regards to what happens to Kim. Is there anything else that evolves or devolves Jimmy into Saul? And then is there one or two more moments with Mike? But I feel like for the most part, we're already there.
Yeah, and I think that the part that's really been hitting me is, like I said, I was talking earlier about Lalo and his gravity, just like pulling everything in. That's what it feels like. It feels like we're being dragged along with the characters into this whole other thing. That we've sort of been hanging out in BCS and taking in the scenery and getting to know these characters on a really deep level. And now, like, this is a shift where everything is being pulled along by something different at this point. And it'll be pretty interesting to see how they pick up. Like, I'm really anticipating the opening of the story again in 608 in a way that I wasn't necessarily right at the end. I mean, I was still kind of processing the fact that Howard died, but now with a little bit of time, I'm thinking a lot more about, there's just not much that ties this guy, that Bob Odenkirk plays. There's just not much that ties him to Jimmy McGill anymore. Like, Kim is really the only person that knows him by that name in this world. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's the thing. One thing about Better Call Saul is it really knows how to do cliffhangers right. Like, if they end an episode off with a cliffhanger or even a season, the next episode or the beginning of the next season really starts off right where that was with season 3 with Chuck's death, season 5 with everything involving the failed Lalo assassination attempt, even season 2 with that one episode where Chuck hits his head on the photocopy store and we're wondering, oh, is Jimmy going to go in and help him? In the beginning of the episode is that. Now, I do think that 608 will obviously pick up right where we left off. I think it is possible that the cold open might be something different. Could be a flashback, maybe a Howard flashback, but definitely after the intro song happens, we will cut right back to them in that apartment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we touched on it a little bit earlier, but just to kind of circle back a little bit. I mean, I think that Lalo, he doesn't have a plan as far as much of anything of just to find out what Jimmy knows, like what his connection is. He knows that he left before because Kim, got him to talked him down from killing Jimmy on the spot. You know what I mean? But I don't think he was satisfied with the idea of the bullet holes. I think he knows that someone helped him out in the desert. He doesn't know exactly what happened out there, but he figures he can get some information off of Jimmy by going back. And that, that's basically his plan for returning. And then, he would like to find out it's connected to Mike because he has a fascination with Mike, but he doesn't really know that for sure. He needs Jimmy to actually confirm that. And then, like you mentioned earlier, there could be a scenario where he tries to employ, or he tries to get him to, to bring Mike to take care of this situation with Howard or something. But they're like in the chess part of it at this point. Like, he knows that Gus knows that he's there. And so there's a lot of like gamemanship that they have to do just to sort of make any moves, because it's all rushing to an actual death. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
they want to kill Lalo, because if they can kill Lalo before he talks to Eladio, then it doesn't change anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know. We definitely already touched a bunch about everything in regards to Mike in season 5 with how he put Lalo into jail and took him out of jail. And I do think that Jimmy will tell everything about the shootout. But another thing I just thought of is that Jimmy does just seem so shocked to see Lalo, and Lalo could kind of play on that and be like, oh, why are you so shocked to see me? Did you think I was dead? Why would you think I was dead? And that would kind of infer that Jimmy knew about the assassination attempt, and well, who told Jimmy, and then who told Kim that, you know, he was still alive. So I think that they could also get information out of him that way too.
Yeah. And I mean, they have to give him something, and then they have to make themselves indispensable, because if not, he just kills them after he gets that information and walks away and leaves 3 dead bodies in that apartment.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing with Walt and Jesse still having Gus keep him alive, because Gus needs them alive because they're his cooks. Like once Gail was going to take over, then they would have been disposable, and that's why they went and did that. So I definitely agree with you that Jimmy and Kim need to not only give them enough information to get off of their backs, but they need to prove that they're still going to be valuable to him in the future to keep them alive.
Yeah. And Big Mac 076, thank you for the $4.99. They asked, do we really think that Jimmy will actually be mad at Kim for not telling him that Lalo was still alive? And this is sort of what I was talking about. I really don't see how that plays into what's happening, because they're like in survival mode. You know what I mean? They're going to keep going, and they're going to have to fight for their lives. So I just don't see how he could really develop that in anything that would be important. You know, like he might be hurt by it, but I don't think they're going to be dealing with that, you know?
And again, well, it depends if all cards go out on the table in regards to Kim admitting that Mike went and talked to her about it. I do maybe think that afterwards they might have a small discrepancy about it, but I don't think they're going to have more serious things on their mind where they're going to say, okay, let's deal with this whole Lalo situation and us surviving, and then, you know, maybe if we have time to talk about that later, then we can do so. But you know, there's a time and a place.
Yeah. And Northern Tao, thank you for the 10. There was a fake ethics video from 2020 that showed an animated Kim doing lawyer stuff for Vominos Pets with Walter as Mr. Mayhew. Just a bit of fun. Do you know what this is?
Yeah, that's in regards to the ethics training, like, video series that Ray Seahorn actually got nominated for, or even won an award for back during season 5. How they did, I know they did Gus at Los Pollos videos, and then they did security training with Mike, I believe. So yeah, those series
I've seen those.
Yeah, so it's just the season 5 one of that. And yeah, those series just try to shove as many Easter eggs in Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul Easter eggs into those videos as possible, whether it's the actual actors talking about stuff or if it's the little fun animations that they do. So yeah, I just think it's a bit of fun, honestly. It's really fun to watch for people that know the Breaking Bad universe like so well. But that's about it, honestly.
Yeah, and I've heard that they're going to be doing them with some of the side characters this season. I don't know if that's common knowledge or whatever, but I read that somewhere.
Yeah, well, I know they're doing that animated Slip in Jimmy spinoff, which I'm not too into, to be honest. I'll give it a chance, but you know. And then they're doing another series of Ray Seahorn playing a different character. I'm not sure where. It's either like New York or LA or something like that. But I think it's LA, because I think she's like kind of like a Hollywood director or something. I don't know if that's going to be canon or what the heck the deal is with that, honestly.
It's not. She's not Kim in it. I watched the first episode of that whenever the screeners came out. I watched. I haven't got around to it, but she's a totally different character.
Okay,
but Ray does. She writes and directs some of that, and it looked interesting. The first thing. It's sort of like a small cast, and you know, 3 people in a room kind of thing where they're just doing different things. So I mean, it might be cool. I saw the trailer for the Slip and Jimmy cartoon, and it looked like it wasn't really. It looked more. I don't know. It looked more like it was maybe for a different. I didn't think I felt like I was in the target demographic for that.
Yeah, me too. I don't really know who that's for, to be honest. I mean, I feel
sure.
Like they could have done a lot with that, but I don't know.
It's out now, right? I mean, I don't know.
I think the first 2 episodes or something like that. I don't know. I haven't seen it, to be honest. I've just seen the trailer.
Yeah, I haven't had time for it either. I saw the trailer and it didn't suck me in, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I'll reserve judgment to see what the rest of it looks like. Strange Waffle, thank you for the $1. Matt Sandlin, thank you for the $9.99. There's still 4 years until Breaking Bad. Still need to see QB, Saul defend Emilio, Saul money laundering. Plus, we still need to see Gene's ending. What is your prediction for the timeline? I don't think we need to see any of those things. I mean, I think it would be okay if we saw all of them, but I don't think that we need to see any of those. I think we've seen enough to understand how the guy who was in Better Call Saul and the guy who's in Breaking Bad would do all of those things, like how they would make sense for him to do those. I think the timeline, that's something I wanted to talk about today. I'm not 100% certain. I do feel pretty strongly that there will be at least the last episode will be Gene. I feel pretty confident the last 2 will be Gene almost entirely, but there could be some crossover. But what I'm wondering about is like how much more how many episodes could this current situation with Lalo actually take up? What are your thoughts
I
on that, Chase?
I mean, I guess Lalo is kind of one of the only things that are standing left in the Better Call Saul timeline. I do think that we'll get at least 3 more episodes in the Better Call Saul timeline, with 610 possibly being the Better Call Saul timeline finale. Episodes 611 to 613 are up in the air, whether we'll get a crossover into the Breaking Bad timeline, as I said before, depending on how many time skips they do, if it's just a Breaking Bad flash forward, or if we actually get a full Breaking Bad episode or two into that timeline. I do think that we'll get 1 full Gene episode to conclude the series, but I'd be open to get 2. So yeah, who knows with, I guess episodes 11 and 12 are what I'm most curious about. Is it just going to be extended Better Call Saul timeline? Is it going to be a mix between that and Breaking Bad, of just a flash forward scene? Are we going to get full on Breaking Bad and just get a bunch of missing scenes to stuff that happens from Saul's perspective? I'm not too sure, but I mean, it would be nice to see QB. That all depends if, Bill Burr has time for it. I know he was supposed to be in season 5, but couldn't, so who knows about that. We do know how, Saul gets it. We know eventually Saul gets that Caldera's contact book, so he could just hire QB through there. We discussed about Emilio already. I think it would be cool to get a cameo from him, but again, we don't need it. And also, it would be kind of cool to see Saul set up some sort of money laundering, because we know a bunch of places in Breaking Bad that he does launder money through, and I think maybe eventually he even buys the nail salon and launders money through that as well, because I think the nail salon's referenced in Breaking Bad. Are we going to see Price return and be the owner of the laser tag store that they launder money through? I mean, there's a lot of options there, but yeah, it just depends how much time they're going to give us in this current timeline, really.
Yeah, I can't really see when I think about it. I really can't see how the whole Lalo situation takes more than 2 episodes. I mean, I'm not saying that they couldn't, but it's just where we're at, like where things are left. Like there's going to be direct action, and like I said, I don't think he could. I don't think he could let either. I don't think he could let them both go somewhere. Like I think he would have to hold one of them hostage while the other one did his bidding. I feel like we're in that kind of situation right now. So I don't know how they could keep that up for more than like 2 episodes, and then like you said, 1 maybe for the aftermath. And then I think from there the rest of it is could very potentially be just Gene and Breaking Bad time stuff, because if we think Kim's going to leave, we could see, that happen in the aftermath. We could see where she's at, sort of like her version of a Gene scene at some point, But yeah,
Yeah.
like if you think about like, the fact that they're there and he's he's there for a reason, Lalo, like they can't really stretch that out that long. Gus and his men are on high alert. They know he's there. So, unless it's like a minute by minute situation where they're showing both sides reacting or something, I feel like that's going to get tied up pretty quickly.
Yeah, I could agree completely with that. 608, 609 could be the finale of Lalo. 610 can be an aftermath, and then 11 and 12. I'm not sure how much Breaking Bad we're gonna get, but maybe even get 2 Gene episodes with 12 and 13.
Yeah, and Jonathan Mirafuentes, thank you for the $5. He says, "Are you worried that AMC will milk this franchise to the floor like they did Walking Dead?" I don't think so. I'm not sure what the deals are. I know Sony actually produces the series. They have the rights, and I don't know if that's a difference between how Walking Dead is put together. But I don't. I feel like I said earlier, and I've said many times, I take Vince and Peter at their word that they're ready to move on, and I don't think that we're going to see AMC step in to just make different shows inside this universe.
Yeah, I'm trying really hard to not talk any ill will on Walking Dead here, because that used to be like my favorite show, but after season 8 it just kind of lost me. So I see where you're getting at with that, but no, I really trust the Better Call Saul creators. I know they'll only do another story if they really feel like they have something. They're not going to force themselves to do another prequel or another sequel or do 4 spin-off shows at the same time as soon as the show ends. Like, I really feel this is it. This is it. This is the story they want to tell. Maybe a few years down the road, if Vince Gilligan has an epiphany and has another good idea, the actors love him so much, and they're always down to come back and do more. But he only does what he feels is necessary. They ended Breaking Bad with 5 seasons. I don't know if it was AMC or what. They kind of begged them to do more than 5 seasons. They said, no, we're going to end with 5 seasons. We're telling the story we want to tell. And I really respect these creators and what they plan on doing. So no, I don't think that they're going to milk it. And to be honest, they already kind of imply that they're a bit worried that they're milking it too much with Better Call Saul, which I don't agree at all. I think Better Call Saul is amazing, but they always have that, sort of running the well dry in the back of their heads. So they're very conscious of that themselves, and they definitely don't want to overdo it.
Yeah. And I think we can start to wind things up here, wrap them up for this episode here.
Yeah.
I'm trying to read some of the regular chat. It's really hard to keep up with. But yeah, I think we could probably wrap it up. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about before we go? Anything related to the conversation, or stuff that you've been thinking about this week since there's no new episode?
Yeah, I really would like to see Kim return in the Gene timeline. It also explained why we haven't seen Gene all season long. We don't want to give Kim plot armor because we already know that Jimmy has plot armor. I'm really anxious for Kim's fate, even if I'm not a fan of her character anymore. I mean, I absolutely love Ray Seahorn. I love Bob Odenkirk, and I do love Jimmy and Kim. But after this most recent episode, like, I would not blame you, or not just you, but anyone watching, if you didn't like these characters anymore. It kind of reminds me of Walt in Breaking Bad, how he ends up doing so many horrific things that by the end of the show, viewers don't even like him by the end of it due to his quote unquote evil actions. I think they're really doing a good job sort of devolving Jimmy into Saul. I think this Howard moment is a big moment. But again, they've kind of been going towards this the whole show. I just think that the creators have purposely sort of steered their characters in a direction where they want us to not like them anymore. They want us to not have as much sympathy or empathy for them, just because of the things that they've done in season 6. And to that, I say they're doing a really good job. I appreciate, the story for what it is, but I mean, I do kind of want, I'm not really rooting for Kim anymore. I gotta say, I do kind of want her to get her comeuppance. I'm not sure what that'll be. I don't want her to die, but if something bad happens to Kim, I'm not going to feel all that bad towards it as, I would have back in, let's say, season 4 or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, her dying would feel as it'd feel almost as undeserving as Howard's did. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, she didn't know what was going to happen to make that, like the unintended consequences of that. She made a bad bad choices, but everybody does. Like regular human beings do that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of I kind of understand some of the sentiment behind that, but I don't really look at her and Walter White in the same way at all. Not yet. That's not to say that they won't go there. I mean, that they won't have her do something that would feel that way, but
Yeah,
he
I don't know. I don't necessarily want Kim to die. I don't think she should die. I think there's a lot better storytelling that could be done in regards to her fate than her just biting the bullet. Whether she goes to jail, gets disbarred, runs away, whatever. But I do feel like something tragic will or even should happen to her more than just watching Howard die in front of her, because that made her realize, the consequences of her actions. But I don't know. I still feel like something has to happen to her. I like the idea of her going to jail and not being able to spend the Sandpiper money that she worked so hard to get. I think it would be truly tragic if she got disbarred, so she can't do the pro bono office that she's always dreamed of. Just something like that. I don't want her character to die. I think there's a lot better things they could do with Kim than just killing her off.
Yeah, because I mean, if you think about Walter, I mean, he watched Jane die. Like he made
Yeah.
that's the kind of choices he made regularly throughout the series, and people still loved him like way beyond that. I mean, we're rooting
Yeah.
for him 100% way beyond that. So I don't know. Like I just don't feel like I haven't felt a turn for Kim, like even the least. Like I feel bad that Howard died, but it's not. They're complicated characters, so there's more than oh well, she deserves something because of the fact that they did this scam. What I mean? Like it was definitely ill advised, but it's not up there on like letting someone die because the relationship might be getting in the way of like you're trying to sell drugs. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Walt has definitely done many, many worse things than Kim could ever imagine, but definitely was a bit of a Kim fanboy going into season 6, and I definitely feel like season 6 has crushed that for me. I don't really know what else to say. I don't hate her, but I don't really like her anymore at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it's the choices that she's made are hard to deal with, and that that was the thing, and a good character. Like I don't like Howard. Like people really like Howard. Like I don't like, I feel like what he got was undeserved, and it shouldn't have happened. But I don't feel bad for a lot of the stuff that happened to him either. Like I don't feel, like I feel like he was all of that is just to say that I feel like he was a great character regardless. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I liked watching him. I liked the performance. In my life, I've known people like him that, you know, I, I didn't relate to that bothered me, whatever, however that plays out, so that's just sort of where it comes down is like, he's flawed and we can all agree on that. And then you have to be like, well, are his flaws the kind of flaws that I can deal with? You know what I mean? And that's the same thing it comes down to with Kim as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe if you can't understand at all how she might find herself in that situation, then you can quickly say, okay, well, I'm done with her. Like I don't what the things I liked about the character are not a thing that I like anymore. You know what I mean? So I get it.
I just feel like ever since season 4, I've definitely drinking the Howard Kool-Aid maybe a bit more than you have in regards to maybe even having a little bit too much sympathy for the character and just thinking, oh, Howard can do no wrong, because that isn't true. He is a very multi-leveled character, which is again, why you're saying that he was a very, well-built character, even though he wasn't perfect by any means. And I think some people forget that Howard wasn't perfect, and ever since season 4, which is like how many years ago now, we've just kind of been on the Howard sympathy train this whole time. They did do a really good job making us care for Howard before he bit the bullet, though. I will say that.
Yeah, that's the choice that they made. You know what I mean? Like he was definitely an obstacle to Jimmy and Kim in the beginning. You weren't supposed to like him. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The door opens whenever you find out it's Chuck, but even then he still wasn't that likable. You know what I mean? He still was kind of, adversarial towards the people that we're supposed to be following. So yeah, then they made the decision to make him likable, you know what I mean? But it's just sort of like I said, there's certain things that you're going to forgive about the way a character is based on your own, your own life experiences and things like that. Rod Kiefer, thank you for the $4.99. Breaking Bad 508 shows that Saul has a gun in his office drawer. We never saw him use it or how he got it. Any chance he or Kim has it in the apartment with Lalo? I would say, just off the top of my head, 0 chance that he has that in the apartment. What about you?
Well, isn't that the same gun that he tried pulling out to defend himself against Jesse, and then Jesse gets the gun from him and points it at him when Jesse was going to use that to disappear, but then he realized that Huel lifted the cigarette off of him because Huel just lifted the weed off of him. So I guess we never see Saul use it, but we did see it come to fruition with Jesse grabbing it and pointing it back at him. I'm not sure how he gets a gun. I mean, he gets the contact book, right? So I assume he knows how to get into contact with Ira if he ever needs a gun. So I feel like he just has that as sort of a defense mechanism after everything that's happened with Lalo.
Yeah. Yeah, like I guess what this is saying is that could he already have it? I don't know. I don't see the connection. And if he did, I mean, I kind of feel like they're not the kind of people that just pull out the gun and shoot Lalo in the face here, and that's the end of the situation. I don't think that's what they're going for, anyways.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever see Jimmy use a gun or if we'll ever see Gene use a gun. Honestly, I feel like he just has it just sort of for peace of mind, you know?
Yeah. The way he reacted in the desert whenever all that shooting was going on is our frame of reference about how he responds to violence. You know what I mean? He's not a natural in that world, like say someone like Mike is.
Yeah.
Lapse of apathy. Thank you for the $5. Do you think Jimmy has some good in him? Do you think he's any bit of a well-meaning guy? Yeah, I think that they showed us that pretty clearly in the first few seasons. I mean, he took the money from the Kettlemans. He gave it back because he wanted to help Kim. You know what I mean? Like there's both Kim and Jimmy have shown several times that they can make the right decision. The problem with Jimmy was that he was doing that to try to get Chuck's, to get approval from Chuck, which he couldn't get. And I think that's more of the question about him is, he wants to be loved, he wants to be validated by, for whatever reason. And, I think he's a well-meaning guy at times, but I think that gets in the way, like you see him sort of bounce back and forth of who he's trying to be, getting his validation from.
Honestly, I think the whole Jimmy versus Chuck aspect of the show, I know a lot of people didn't like how slow the first few seasons are, but I genuinely just love it so much, that whole story. I feel like we could do a whole stream just talking about the first 3 seasons and all these different instances of Jimmy did this to Chuck and Chuck did this to Jimmy and he won't admit this and Chuck can't admit that. And I do think that the final conversation that they had together in the season 3 finale of Chuck saying that you mean well, but you ruin the lives of everyone around you, you should just embrace it, that really does push him towards Saul. And then the season 2 conversation when Kim and Jimmy went to go get the Mesa Verde files from Chuck's house. Chuck accuses Jimmy of everything, and then Kim knows that Jimmy's at fault, but she still says to Chuck, like, look, you did this to him. You made him this way. All he wanted was your approval. All he wanted to be was accepted and loved, and you couldn't give that to him, and I feel sorry for him. So I think those are 2 very powerful conversations in regards to the whole Chuck versus Jimmy of it all. But yeah, I can just spiral down into a rabbit hole talking about it over and over again because I really miss Chuck, honestly. I miss seeing him on screen. I love the chemistry. I get he did have to, go. It was his time. They did about everything they could with him, but I do think that Jimmy, means well, but Chuck is right. He does destroy the lives of people around him, and that final conversation just has so much impact on who Jimmy is today and not being able to accept Chuck's death, and he compartmentalizes it after, especially after that conversation that they had, and Jimmy knows that he's at fault, and he lets Howard take the blame, and yada yada yada. You know, I could just ramble forever, honestly, about that.
Yeah,
So I'll stop.
there's so much that that's a whole thing that I can't really get into at this point because we're coming towards the end. I agree with everything you're saying there. It is a fascinating thing. Gil and I did like, I don't know, 6 hours of podcasts about those first 3 seasons, talking about that, the way that they developed that and how fantastic it was. You know, Chuck he's the what he said about Jimmy's right, but that's not the end of the conversation. You know what I mean? Chuck has like he had a lot to do with it. Like you know what I mean? Like he made a lot of that. You know, it's sort of like the self-fulfilling prophecy kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, there's definitely a lot more to that conversation and that whole dynamic in general. I was just trying to cut off my rambling before I went too far because
yeah,
you can tell I'm passionate towards it, but that is another conversation for another day, sadly, because we are kind of running out of time here.
yeah, and that's what I was doing. I was just stopping myself from because I could go on. And I really do enjoy talking about that relationship. I'm definitely anti Chuck. He's also sad what happened to him in the end, but he was the one that had the power in the situation, and he behaved like, we know that he was brilliant, but he behaved like a hurt little kid most of the time when you really think
Hmm.
about it, which is
I,
which is great because that's how regular people do in the world. I'm not saying that he had mental illness, and he was definitely affected by what was going on, and it was complicated, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I will just conclude, that conversation for now at least by saying, yeah, my first watch through of the show, I definitely was a part of the hashtag F Chuck meme. But every time I watched through the show, I learned more and more about his character, and I gained more sympathy to all the different layers of Chuck and Chuck versus Jimmy. And I do really think that was just a mastercraft of a story.
Yeah, because this is okay. This is really the final word on it.
Sorry.
The thing about it is, like it's really tragic when you think about that. Jimmy cared about him so much that he enabled him, and really his whole thing was that Jimmy needed to take responsibility and be whoever he was, as long as it wasn't a lawyer. And Chuck the whole time is not taking responsibility for his own illness. You know what I mean? He
Yeah.
has people, he's saying Jimmy destroys everybody's lives. He's doing the same thing to everyone. You know what I mean? And it's just so much fun to just watch it and dig into the different things in the way that it goes back and forth. He was
Just
right,
the
but still, I'm still F Chuck. I feel sad that he died, but
just the chicanery of it all, right? And I'm
yeah.
glad I'm glad we got to talk about that at least a little bit, because after you saying that you didn't really feel that bad that Howard died, I was gonna ask you about Chuck, but I guess I got my answer there, right?
I mean, I feel bad that they both died. You know what I mean? But it doesn't turn me against the other people because of the way that it turned out. You know what I'm saying?
Fair enough.
That
I can
like
understand that.
like Howard definitely didn't deserve what happened to him at all. Nobody did. Nobody would. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
but Lalo did that. You know what I mean? And we love
Yeah.
Lalo. But yeah,
How
we're
messed up is that?
yeah, that's
Love
what I'm
Lalo.
saying. So it's just sort of like the idea that they're playing with is that we should feel differently about Jimmy and Kim. I'm not saying that we should just stand by them, and whatever. But I feel like the way that it looks different to me is not that like I don't like them anymore. It's more that, wow, that's way more complicated than it was last week. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I just love how down to earth this show is and how relatable it can be at times, and how just even just realistic and personal it is, just exploring these characters. But yeah, I guess we should end it off there before we go down another hour long
Yeah.
Chuck rabbit hole. Save that for another time maybe.
Yeah. So go ahead and plug your stuff here before we go.
Yeah, so first off, thanks for having me on the stream. It's always very enjoyable, a lot of fun. I guess I just want to plug the video that I just did earlier today, my season 2 tier list. A lot of people have been asking about it for a while. I had to go back and edit some things due to copyright issues, but I finally got that up. So go check out my season 2 tier list. It's literally almost an hour long. I go through the entire season, ranking each episode. It's kind of a recap summary as well, to some extent, and every week, give or take, may not be exactly Monday or Tuesday, but every week I am planning on doing a tier list for each season. So I've already done 1 and 2 now. I'm going to do 3, 4, and 5, and then I'm going to do season 6 part 1, all leading up to season 6 part 2. So yeah, check out the channel, give that some support, and yeah, Pete, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's always a good time.
Yeah, thanks for coming out. And like I said, I don't know what we're gonna do as far as in this break. If something comes up, I'll definitely be wanting to stream. I mean, I like doing it either way, but I don't know that we need to come back weekly to kind of answer the same questions over and over again for the next
Yeah.
6 weeks. You know what I
Maybe
mean?
maybe not weekly, but maybe possibly just before season 6 starts, we could do kind of a preparation stream, especially if they release
Oh
another
yeah, I'll
trailer
definitely
with
be doing that.
actual.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll
So
I'll
like,
definitely be
yeah.
doing that. So
Especially if they release another trailer, but we'll have to see. They're pretty good with not spoiling too much in trailers. So, I mean, fingers crossed, but at the same time I'd be okay if they didn't.
yeah, and so thanks to everyone who came out. I was wondering how many we would get. It was still pretty well attended, and thanks for so many questions. It was a fun time. I'm glad we did it, and I'll let you guys know. I have a new video coming out tomorrow, and next couple of weeks, just check out my Twitter or my channel, and you'll know whether we're gonna come back or not. So thanks again. We'll talk to you soon.